Not loaded. Okay. Yes, ma'am. I'll be real quick on that. Oops. Hopefully I'll be quick. Works a lot better if I put my glasses on, but I'm going to wing it. Getting old. I'm getting old. Take a picture of it because I need to switch. Okay. All right. Everybody got it? Okay. So now, where's my... Well, no. Sorry.
I can.
You got it?
As long as I've got a mouse. Thank you, Will. Thank you for the housekeeping stuff. And thanks to Transportation for hosting this event. Looking out here, pretty good attendance, about the same, maybe a little bit better than last year. Do we know how many people are joining us online? Any idea on that? 6. Okay, so we got 26 joining us online. Glad to have you all joining us in that manner. I'd like to introduce the Executive Director of the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security and the 911 Services Board, Josh Keats. He's going to provide the opening remarks this morning. And, you know, we've had a good relationship with these folks and what they're doing on the 911 front, next gen 911 implementation. Very exciting. So let him give some opening remarks and then we'll go from there. Thank you, sir.
All right, greetings everybody. My name is Josh Keats. I am the Executive Director of the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security. Welcome to the Kentucky Association of Mapping Professionals meeting. I'm thrilled to have you all here as we come together to share ideas, to discuss our work and strengthen the bonds within our mapping community. As we gather today, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this event, JMT Technology Group, as well as Siler Geospatial for providing the refreshments. Also, I'd like to reflect on what brings us all together, our shared passion for mapping and the profound impact it has on our communities and beyond. Mapping is not just about lines on a map or pixels on a screen. Am I good? Ooh. It's about understanding our world, making informed decisions, and addressing the challenges we face in our ever-evolving environment. In Kentucky, we are uniquely positioned to leverage our geographic insights to address diverse issues from urban planning and transportation to environmental conservation and public health. As most of you know, the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security houses both the 911 Services Board and the Kentucky Intelligence Fusion Center. Some of our mapping endeavors we are driving in the 911 community include the Kentucky 911 Services Board has contracted with CommTech to implement next-gen 911 solutions statewide. The first PSAP onboarding is targeted for October 21st. 116 of 117 PSAPs are aggregated into the statewide layers, with one just about nearing completion. We're continuing collection and maintenance of address and structure points. It's the most utilized data layer from the Kentucky 911 Services Board as well as KOHS. And it has numerous applications in emergency management. Also, we have widespread adoption and use of rapid deploy radius in dispatch, and we're expanding it with Lightning product pilots to aid first responders currently. How can we leverage all this GIS information for the Kentucky Intelligence Fusion Center in-house to make Kentucky safer? The data associated with the 911 GIS can play a critical role in enhancing intelligence gathering by providing valuable insights into the movements and behaviors of individuals or vehicles of interest. By analyzing this data, law enforcement and intelligence agencies can track the locations and patterns of vehicles over time, illuminating trends that may suggest suspicious or criminal activities. This information can be cross-referenced with other intelligence sources, allowing for the identification of potential connections between individuals, locations, and events. Furthermore, and I'm really excited about this for our Intelligence Fusion Center as we adopt a more operational center 24/7 posture, is that the real-time monitoring of 911 call locations can aid in the quick response to incidents, enabling the Infusion Center to watch for critical events as they unfold live, as well as to identify problematic areas to effectively allocate resources and enhance public safety overall. Leveraging 911 GIS data empowers agencies to make informed decisions and develop proactive strategies in their intelligence operations. And we have definitely utilized numerous 911 phone calls, even post events, to help analyze deeply into how we should respond to events in the future. One critical mapping success story that I'd like to share from my tenure here at the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security is our development of a predictive analysis heat map for the spread of COVID by pinpointing traveler data for individuals arriving from affected countries with final destinations listed in Kentucky. From State Department and DHS travel data, we were accurately able to predict where the first cases of COVID might show up in Kentucky. And then from there, we developed a heat map that was based on the number of travelers for each potential city. This map was shockingly accurate, and it was adopted as a major success story by DHS and will be utilized in any future pandemics that might strike the world. In closing, let's embrace this meeting as a chance to recharge our enthusiasm, share our knowledge, and celebrate the power of mapping in Kentucky. Together, let's continue to advance our profession, contribute to our communities, and inspire one another. Thank you and have a wonderful meeting. Welcome to the Transportation Center. And if any of you would like a tour of our Fusion Center or to meet any of our other KOHS officials, we're happy to accommodate that. Watson Harding is our representative who will be sitting with you for most of the day. So just reach out to Watson and he can set up the arrangements. Ken?
Thank you, sir. Little note about him. He's also a first responder. So he actually understands what he's talking about at an operational level. Okay. Here we go. Yeah. No, I think we're good. So is this stuff going to cover up the screen the whole time? Okay. There we go. All right. Very good. Thanks for your attendance today. We're really going to focus today on the important role of KYFromAbove data resources. And we've got folks from state government agencies and the Kentucky Geological Survey here to give us overviews of how they leverage this data within their daily operations. Okay, arrow keys don't work for what that's worth. Okay, topics. We're going to go over governance. Not going to spend too much time on that, but a few minutes. State government GIS, the importance of open data to all of us, the KYFromAbove program, and then we'll have time for some questions at the end. And the space bar does work. Every time that comes up, I'm losing control, folks. So I don't know if there's a way to kill that or not, but it's going to be difficult. So governance. And I know this is probably the boring thing we'll talk about today, at least to a lot of folks. It provides a solid foundation. It defines roles and responsibilities, establishes data and software standards. And, I can remember when we all got started in GIS at the area development districts. It was interesting times. And the ads got to choose two different software packages. It was either ArcInfo, PC ArcInfo, that is, or MapInfo. And so right then, we started to understand the importance of all using the same platform, all using the same data formats and things like that. And that's a long time ago when that happened. Governance was kind of right there in our face. It promotes collaboration. It reduces duplicative efforts. We've seen this over and over again. Folks will go out, we've got to have this data set. Let's go out here and collect it, without realizing that another agency or somebody at a local level or a federal agency already had that data. Okay, we've seen that happen over and over the years. It ensures interoperability. You know, once again, data formats, very important. Kentucky single zone. You all do not understand the impact the Kentucky single zone had us in terms of how we operate here in state government and present statewide data sets to the community. So the entities that are responsible for governance are the GIAC. Of course, we set a lot of policies at that level, and there's a lot of stakeholders around the table that play a role in that process. Of course, our office also, sets policies and standards and do that in support of the GIAC. And then the Commonwealth Office of Technology, Office of IT Architecture and Governance. It's even got governance in the name. This is more of an enterprise level, but we've got things like software standards. We all use the same messaging systems. All of these things ensure interoperability. And then state agencies and local governments. Internally, you all should have some level of governance, especially as it relates to how you manage your data and how you share your data. And you can look up the line for what's been done and build on that, but it is important that you're having those discussions at that level as well. The council, statutorily created in 1994. It's 31 years ago, folks. 25 voting members and 1 non-voting member. Our non-voting members from the Legislative Research Commission. Yeah. All right. Advises the CIO on geospatial matters. That's in the statute. It meets on a quarterly basis. Subcommittees meet on an as-needed basis. We adopt standards and specifications. Once again, Kentucky single zone. We did a trail data standard. We're working on public building data standards. Geodesy. You go, down the line, there's standards that we have out there for these things. Once again, makes it easier to share, makes it easier to consume. We recommend policies that assist state and local jurisdictions. We ensure maximum use and minimize duplication. A lot of this language is straight from the statute. Encourage collaboration and data sharing. That's a very important thing that we do. And one of the most recent successes, raise your hand if you were a geoprocessing specialist, if you were. All right, okay. Are you a GIS analyst now if you're still in state government? Yeah. So we've got a new GIS analyst, supervisor, and manager job classifications. And I can tell you some of those folks are pretty happy with the change in their paycheck. DGI, once again, statutorily created 31 years ago. We maintain the central statewide GIS clearinghouse as per statute. We provide enterprise level services to agencies. And the reason I've got an asterisk there is we put all the data in one spot. We store it in one spot. All of this agency GIS data, these agencies that build and maintain this data feed the enterprise databases. It's not, DGI doesn't create a lot of data, We get aerial photography, we work on city boundaries, we, create derivatives from KYFromAbove stuff. But it's the folks in this room, the state agencies, that create the data and feed the enterprise databases. We interface with federal partners. And that's been interesting lately, as a lot of the folks that I interface with are disappearing. We have a new USGS liaison. The only thing he knew about Kentucky is that we had a good basketball team. We don't have an NGS advisor anymore. The main guy at the Forest Service office in Winchester, not there anymore. I can go on down the list. We provide support to state and local agencies. We manage the KYFromAbove program, and we support the council. Also in support of the council, we maintain their standards and specifications, a lot of subcommittee work involved in that. And then, of course, we draft legislation and funding proposals. We receive no legislative funds for our operations. And you need to think about that. I've had agencies, especially local governments, come to us in the past. Well, why don't you get some of the money that you get from the legislature and spend it on this, or spend it in our area, or do this with it? Go look in the state budget. It's not in there. We're funded through an enterprise assessment at the Commonwealth Office of Technology. So there is no annual lot item in the budget, never has been. A lot of miscommunication about that. And there's a little clip right there from one of the newer statutes, 42-655. And I think the interesting part is the last sentence, shall make the clearinghouse available to all state agencies. You know, there are other states don't have anything in statute at all about GIS, nothing. They still don't have a council. They don't have a clearinghouse. And lots of times in those states, there is no sharing going on. So not only do we have that situation set up here in Kentucky, it's mandated by statute. The importance of open data. He just talked about the 911 points. Utilities, they're finding value in the 911 points. Lots of stuff going on out there, uses for those above and beyond the 911 data. Very, very important data set. Open data, exposing it, sharing it, increases return on investment. It invites investment in our state. It is economic development. See Will sitting there shaking his head. Is Jenny in here? She would tell you the same thing. You know, if they come to our state and they're wanting to look at a building or a site, and the state can say, hey, we've got this data set, and this data set to help you make that decision, they're going to be much more likely to come here than the state that has nothing and says, oh, we can get that for you. We've already got it. When they wanted to build that big battery plant, where did they come and ask for the LiDAR? When they did the high ground communities in Eastern Kentucky, GRW engineers calls, hey, Kent, we want to make sure we got the most recent LiDAR and aerial photography before we start down this path. This data is very critical to our communities. It fosters collaboration. I was filling out a survey and they asked, so, you know, did you get this data for multi-use or a single use? And I scratched my head. Do any of us really maintain data sets that we think are only going to be used for one thing? I don't think that really happens a lot in the GIS community. We use this data over and over again. Of course, it fosters collaboration, supports research. I think you'll see some cool stuff on that today. Promotes interoperability, identifies authoritative sources. How many of you all have your own copy of county boundaries? Wrong. Cost avoidance measure. I like this one. We like this one. My team loves this one. Document your data. Do the metadata right, make it discoverable, try to answer all the questions, and they won't call you and ask you questions, and you can get your job done, okay? It's very valuable to publish this stuff and get it out there in the right way. It'll take a load off your shoulders. The enterprise GIS, once again, supported by agency-contributed data. The agencies that are out there creating these data sets. You know, if you log into the rapid deploy, the radius mapping in the 911 system, there's this list over here on the side of all of these layers that the users can toggle on and off and create different response scenarios. That data is coming from these state agencies and from the federal agencies. Business process driven updates. The updates are done based on a cadence that's set by the agencies. You know, they know when the data needs to be updated. Transportation, we get stuff weekly. Fish and wildlife, we may only get that when they update a public hunting area. You know, something like that. It's all based on the cadence of their business process. Standards-based. Once again, we have standards with how we share data, how we do the metadata, and how we expose it. Of course, this reduces data duplication. Once again, how many of you all have county boundaries? Metadata requirements. We have those. We make sure folks adhere to them. And with where we're going in the future, one of the things that's going to happen is you're not going to have to publish to that old GeoPortal anymore. That one last step, you can mark it off the list. And I appreciate the folks out there who've helped us test that. We have hundreds of statewide layers at everybody's fingertips. Don't take that for granted. I hear from folks in other states, it just doesn't exist out there. We've made it easy to discover and access. And of course, all of this now feeds the open data portal. And for those of you all that aren't aware, and I know I've said this at multiple meetings, we take all of the vector data that's in the enterprise database on a quarterly basis, and we put that out for you all to go get. I know of engineering firms, surveying consulting firms, lots of folks in the private sector that'll go out there and harvest that data on a regular basis. So they've got that copy right there. Very powerful. Yeah, 1 billion, I think 945 million last month just on the internal servers. We'll break 1 billion this year. I think we'll break 500 million at the end of this month based on the stats that Ian ran last time. So this doesn't count anything on ArcGIS Online. This doesn't count hits against SDE. This is just public facing KYGIS server and KY raster. All right, little blast from the past here. This guy came to us, two guys from State Board of Elections in 2018. And they said, well, actually called us first. They said, wouldn't it be cool if the state had this system and it had all these layers in it and we could use it for elections? Whew. Yeah, okay. We got to get these guys over here. So we invite them over. We sit them down, and they'd given us this list of layers they just had to have. And you can see voting precincts, question mark, parcels, question mark, structure points, question mark. After decades of effort, State Board of Elections, MEG, is using GIS. This is big. Kim and I, we're pushing for this for decades to happen. Finally, this is a milestone. And you know, they've now got voting precincts, by the way, that they're using and building out. They have access, limited access, but they have access to parcels, and they have 911 points. I say most there, most parcel data. I think we're up to 106, Lucas, 106. And it's not all the attributes, but hey, it's a lot more than we had a year ago, and it's a whole lot more than we had 2 years ago. And then final 911 implementation is underway. Once again, all of those things in 2018 that we didn't have access to, there we go, we've got it. Oh, and we do contribute the addresses to the National Address Database. All right, a little news from our end. vector tile base maps are on the way. We're migrating most of our services to ArcGIS Online. The number of available resources on the open data portal is increasing very rapidly. KY GeoPortal will be retired this fall. It's going to be shut down. Bye-bye, gone. We are distributing layer X files that will facilitate the use of these data layers in Pro. And just want to give everybody a heads up, and we'll be posting this in all the right places. Selected cached map and image services will be retired. We've got some duplicative things. Like we've got 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022 imagery cached separately. And then we've got it all cached statewide. It's a pretty big storage footprint. So, you know, we'll probably clean up some of those things and let folks know that that's coming. Recreational trails were published and submitted to the USGS, which is a big win for us. Once again, we were able to do that because we worked together and created a standard at the GIAC level. We're migrating all of our apps from Web App Builder to Experience Builder. We're probably, I'm guessing, 4 to 6 weeks away from wrapping that up. It's pretty good. And we're going to hire some additional staff. So that's probably going to happen here closer to the middle of the year. So I feel that Kentucky's GIS is built on a strong foundation, and everybody in this room plays a role in that. The statutory governance, you know, these are some of the cornerstone features. We have our standards-based approach, open data access, of course, willingness to share. we're really nationally recognized in many ways. Our aerial photography program, our LiDAR program, our clearinghouse, the number of layers. A lot of folks know about this. We have a state mapping organization. Like I said, a lot of states don't even have a council. They don't have anything in statute. You know, we've got all of that, plus we've got a group of folks who are working together regarding mapping. A collaborative atmosphere and long-term established relationships, both internal and external. The state of the Commonwealth's GIS is strong. But we have a little chink in our armor. And we do need folks' help with some things. KYTC. That says a call to action, by the way. What's at stake here? What am I asking for? The KYTC area photography program specifically. Okay, that's what we need your help with. What's the threat? Consistent funding. Okay, that's what we need. We need it legislated. It needs to be in the state budget, the biennial budget, and it needs to be there every time, not just once. How's it funded now? Program partners. In no particular order, that's the current list. Okay, those are people who either have, maybe they only contributed in 2012. Maybe they've done it every year. But this is the current list right now. Those are the folks out there who've contributed over the years. Everybody from the Department of Defense to, you know, Homeland Security. Homeland Security paid for an entire year of 6-inch aerial photography. They funded the whole thing 2021 because they knew it was important for their 911 data portal. So what are the other imagery funding sources? There's no private sector contributions to date in Kentucky. I hear that has happened in limited success in other states, but not a lot of talk about that. And then, of course, we got one General Assembly appropriation. Not anything for operations, not anything to help support us, but for aerial photography. Real quickly, elevation funding. Those are the numbers, 19 million to date. We are now on phase 3. I think next year is going to be a decent year, okay? It takes about 5 to 7 years to get the whole state done, and next year shaping up to be pretty good. Notice that the vast majority of that is state funds, and USGS and NRCS. Those are the folks who have given us the majority of the federal money. Imagery funding. So we got phase 3. That's how much we needed to spend, was 16 million. We got 17 million, but they only gave us 11.5. Okay, they failed to carry it over. They meaning the legislature. So we'd already signed a contract. Have you ever had to go to your boss and say, hey, I need $5.5 million to finish this project? It's an awkward position to be in, folks. It's hard to come up with $5.5 million. This is an investment in Kentucky. As I've said before, it supports the have-nots, empowers the smallest communities, and gives us statewide coverage, not county by county by county out there that you've got to put together, or maybe it doesn't even fit together. Provides value to the private sector, economies of scale savings, local partner benefits. Some big savings there for the locals who've pitched in. Supports education and research, distributed in the public domain, meets or exceeds specifications, high return on investment, and very key here, the data is owned by the Commonwealth. 7.351 return on investment. Study in Indiana is closer to 20 to 1. I think we all know that return on investment is very high, especially when we're talking about this particular project. So on the funding outlook, our 3-dep elevation funding was on hold. They finally released the funds after we were done flying. So we'll use those funds for the next year to get the same counties we had to cut. There is no reauthorization of funds, no carryover of unexpended funds. There's no money for aerial photography, and there's no state agency funding commitments for imagery acquisitions. That's where we're at today. Program outlook. We're going to continue the elevation program. Imagery program must be paused. No flights planned. Budget requests will be submitted. I'd like to see this in the governor's budget request. It was in there last time. It's in there last time. But it didn't make it in the final cut. Continued documentation of use cases. Need you all to do that as well. We're going to continue to maintain the purchase mechanisms so that we can get this data even if a local needs to come to us. Real quick there, that's about how much money we need to do this and do this right. About $5.7 million a year. 750 for LiDAR. Organizational support. Got these letters, these letters of support that have gone out from KAMP, professional surveyors, and the advisory council. That's great at an organizational level. Really need you all to do it at an individual level in your communities. And I think KAMP's got some documents that make that easy. So how can you help? Educate and advocate. Don't take this asset for granted. Credit KYFromAbove as a data source. See, a lot of people kind of forget to do that sometimes. Inform your leadership about its value. Take note of use cases. Identify duplicative spending in your agency or at the local level. Reach out to your elected officials. We need this to come from all over the state, not just from Frankfurt. And complete the KYFromAbove survey. How many of you all have completed the survey? All right, a whole lot of people haven't. We can get a lot of people to do it. All right. So this is what we're seeing. Here's some of the responses. Go out there and take a look at it. Fill it out. I think some of these things are great right here. Asset conditions can change quickly and have more recent free and open source photography available through the Explorer allows us to get past budget constraints and IT red tape with implementing paid services to do the same thing. Pretty interesting there. Look out the forestry there. LiDAR helps KDF resources plan their missions for best access point for dozers, vehicles, and personnel in a safe manner. Reference 911 right there. Can see the job site without having to go there. What's the value of that? It's pretty valuable, especially in the private sector. And the one in the bottom center. The vast amount of elevation data helps us plan more efficient drainage systems to better control soil erosion in farm fields. There are 2 companies in Kentucky now that tile fields, mainly in Western Kentucky, that are using our LiDAR data to go out and help these farmers tile their fields. Cool stuff. Phase 3 LiDAR status, that's what we collected this year. These counties will be put on the front end in 2026. So that's forthcoming, along with other counties. 2026 planning is underway. Our web elevation layers are out there. If you haven't gone to play with those, check them out. It's really cool stuff, and you can do some neat things with it. Phase 2 elevation derivatives. Contour production is underway. 10-foot and 40-foot are done. We'll start on 20. 5-foot statewide will be created, spot elevations, feature layers, and ArcGIS Online exposing this stuff. We'll have a vector tile layers as well, and you'll be able to download it as a file geodatabase. Phase 3 imagery, it's all out there. It's all up for download. Dynamic services are up. Cache map services are up. County-based TPKX files, I think we're probably 75, 80% done with getting those ready. There's Mr. Sid's out there too, for those of you that care. Tile-based downloads. There's some good instruction there on how to do it yourself. Don't ask to send me a hard drive. And we've got these AWS connection files out there. You can use these QR codes to download it. The cool thing about this is if you're just looking at a few tiles, you don't have to download them. You can add this stuff into your pro project directly. You don't have to put anything on your hard drive and run analysis against it. That's pretty powerful. And a little announcement here. The final step in the democratization of our Phase 3 imagery resources. I want to remind everybody, it's not licensed. Okay. Probably the only oblique data set in the nation that's not licensed. It's owned by the Commonwealth. All of this data is pretty unique as well. I was filling out a national survey about aerial photography. There's not even a place in there where you can check that you've got statewide 3-inch. It's not even an option. There's not even an option to check that you've got oblique imagery. Not even an option. Other states hadn't even thought about that. It's freely distributed on AWS in the public domain. It's openly available to anyone to use for any purpose. You saw some of those responses in there in the survey. But there's this one little barrier that we've all encountered with the oblique imagery. It's this. How many of you all have had to scroll down, scroll down, scroll down? Agree. All right. Gone. Okay. We're done with that. Later this week, this is going to go live. And the new KYFromAbove Explorer, it was developed by MV5 for Kentucky. It's a custom art GIS experience builder application. The user is not presented with the end user license agreement. There's nothing to click through. Don't need your credit card, none of that kind of stuff. It leverages an oriented imagery catalog that'll be hosted on AGOL. It's a great set of tools, a lot of new capabilities, familiar navigation interface. If you've used any web maps, the little navigation map or the overview map you're going to be using, it's going to look very familiar to you. The imagery catalog is going to be accessible in Pro. Now, there's a little weirdness going on from Esri's side on that, but it's kind of to be expected. And it'll be online the next few days, sooner than later. All the existing integrations out there should continue to work. If you run into problems, let us know. Although long-term, you probably ought to think about leveraging some of the newer URL parameters that will be able to pass it. And put Lucas on the spot here. Lucas's presentation is going to go over this in detail, go over the viewer, show how to access it in Pro and some of those things. So special thanks to our team, to MV5, and to everybody who's been working on this behind the scenes to make this a reality and to kind of remove that last little barrier to our data. That's his final thoughts. Esri base maps, beware. They're not good, okay? They switch data providers. The roads are bad. The boundaries are terrible. And you should not rely on them for any authoritative work of any sort. Do not make decisions based on the locations of those roads or any of the boundaries, especially county boundaries and the state boundary. They're just wrong, okay? They're just wrong. Yeah. If you haven't already migrated to Pro, you are behind, folks. You know, you're behind and you need to catch up. You need to embrace the cloud. I don't like it any more than anybody else, but it's inevitable. Might as well do it. Web Mercator's where it's at for online mapping. If you're still using a local coordinate system and putting your stuff out there, I'm not saying you have to store your stuff at Web Mercator. Do not advocate that. But if you're not serving your stuff up in Web Mercator, you're missing the whole point of this. Don't operate like you're on an island. You're not doing anybody any favors. And if you're still trying to sell your data, you don't get it. Give it away. You'll get more back. Acknowledgements. Leadership. Carrie's here. Our boss, our team's boss. We are very lucky to have some very supportive leadership here in the Commonwealth Office of Technology. Our team, Lucas, Ian, Kevin, raise your hands at least. I don't even know where Ian is. Oh, there he is. And the IT support teams at COT. I mean, we do a lot of work with these folks. I mean, oh, we need 10 more terabytes here. We need another server there. We need, you know, blah, blah, blah. These guys take care of this stuff fast. They're good folks to work with. I also want to thank today's presenters. I know everybody had to put some time and effort into preparing for today, and I appreciate that. Transportation, thanks for hosting it. And finally, does anybody know what the image in the lower right is? Yeah, Kim says hello. She's not going to come back and help us. She's been gone for about 7+ months now, and she's settled into retirement quite nicely. And but she probably still gets asked 2 or 3 questions a day. So she says hello. Any questions? All right, I've got one out there, Emily. Uh-huh.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So question number 1, are there any plans for DGI to publish user submitted layer data? Things like waterfall locations, flunking type data, things that people not a part of agencies collect out in the field and potentially want to share.
Not opposed to that. My thought is that goes in line with a lot of the recreational stuff we've been working on. And to do that and do that right, to get anybody's data, I'm going to go back to something I said multiple times. We've got to have a standard. Okay. The problem is, you know, okay, you got these guys out there going and, like you said, spelunking or finding rock climbing. I mean, these people love this oblique stuff for finding rock climbing places, by the way. You know, if it's not all submitted to us in a standardized format, then we've got to do work. So I'm not opposed to that at all, but we need a standard.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question, is there still hope that parcel data will be shared with ads since they use that for grants and other county needs?
I wouldn't hold my breath. So, I mean, right now, there's only one data sharing agreement in state government for GIS, and it's with parcels, and you got to sign your life away. So, well, you know, everything else is wide open, but if you want to look at this stuff, you got to sign something. So, and you don't know how hard it's been just to get to that point. Yeah, good luck.
Okay. Thank you. Last question, and this may be answered by the presentation that Lucas is going to give. They're using LiDAR DEM, but because of data size constraints, they have to use phase 1. Is there any plan to elaborate on how people can use them without downloading them?
So the concern is that the LiDAR phase 2 data is too big.
That's what it says in their question, yes.
It's not that big. It's tiny compared to imagery. Have them reach out to us. It is 6.25 times larger than phase 1 when you're storing it on disk, but the whole statewide DEM is only like 1.1 terabyte. So I don't know. Yeah, have them reach out to us. That shouldn't be a big lift unless they're trying to do something that at a huge scale. So be happy to work with whoever had that question.
Perfect. Thank you. Those are the only questions from the chat right now.
Okay, very good. Yes. Yes. With one caveat. This is the Esri funkiness.
Well,
You have to have an add-in installed.
Okay.
And there may be issues depending on the version of Pro you're using. And we learned yesterday that there may be an issue on whether you're on Windows 10 or Windows 11. This is all an Esri thing. It works.
Okay.
But, you know, like on 3.1 on 10, it rocks. Okay. On 3.43 on 11, it rocks.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything, you know, we're getting there. Yeah. But yes, that's true. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's really cool. Yes.
hang on. So
Would I be a runner? You want me to be a runner?
Sure.
Okay. For the for those who have taken the oblique imagery viewer and incorporated it into other tools and applications, are there going to be URL parameter changes in the new application?
No, the current, this one is being released in such a way that the URL parameters that were associated with the Sanborn viewer will work with the new viewer. However, I would recommend that long term, once we get all the information out there on the new URL parameters, you may want to start looking at those, because not only can you launch it to a given location, you can say, launch it at this location and show me the view from this side and zoom into this scale level. Yeah, so there's greater capabilities with it, but the old strings will still continue to work. The single zone and the lat long URL parameter strings will still work.
Any other questions? Anything else? All right, give a round of applause to Kent.
Who's next? Me. You got it. Yeah. And presenters, you all can kind of self-introduce.
Is Ramsey in here? There you are. Do you have a jump drive or something? Oh, okay, then I'll have to pull it down. Did you put it up there this morning? Yeah. Okay. 1 second. Oh, come on. Sorry. It's coming. Okay, so Ramsey Quarles from the KYTC Planning Division. He's branch manager there that runs our linear referencing management system, among other things. He's going to talk about Kentucky from above.
Okay, thank you, Will. Like Will said, my name is Ramsey Quarles. I'm the I'm the branch manager for the data management branch within planning. We maintain the LRS network for the cabinet as well as the HIS database. Today I'm going to talk about aerial photography and how important it is just for what we do. So you got data QC. It's so good now we can collect data with it. And alignment changes we can pick up. Mainly those are local roads. We've got a pretty good handle on state projects, but there are some that we do find occasionally. Can you hear me? Am I too far away? I like standing there. I like to move. So here's a picture of a subdivision. No aerials. Anybody tell me if those roads are right? They look right. Can you? So without aerials, I can assume this is right, but I don't know for sure. Once we turn aerials on, you can tell, yep, those are pretty good. We've even got an addition to the subdivision up there on the east side. So, you know, without these aerials, you're essentially flying blind, and you have huge trust in the people that give you the data. And there's no way we could send people out and GPS everything across the state. We do it with state roads, and that's enough. Doing it with local roads, it's not possible. It's not feasible. Here's another example. These roads look fine. They're nice and smooth. They look pretty. So they're probably all right. You turn on an aerial and they built a building there. Without aerials, I would have never found that there's a building here that I need to check with we have contracts with the area development districts, who check with the locals, mayors and fiscal courts, about their roads. So I know now to ask the ad to check on these 2 county roads. Are they still there? Are they realigned? Are they just completely gone? Is this now a private parking lot? You know, that kind of thing. Without that, this probably would have stayed like this forever, honestly. So here's a little data QC. This is a brand new road that we got from one of our contacts. The teal line is the alignment of the new road we got. Without aerials, I would have just put it in and said, okay, great, we got a new road. You can tell that the line is not quite right. I believe this is from the county. This is the county's line, from the fiscal court. I'm not sure how they got it. But without these aerials to check these things, there's no, unless the ad goes out and GPSs it, we get those GPS files. Only at that point can we really trust it. But now we just turn on an aerial and we can tell. Data collection. This is some of the phase 3-inch. You can tell how far in I can zoom in, and I can see everything pretty good detail. I see turn lanes there. I see a median there. I see a Y there. I can see how many lanes there are. I can even measure. I think those were 12-foot lanes when I measured. So, you know, this was up in Boone County. I'd have to send my crew up there, collect this data, come back. It'd be a day. I think I had somebody sit in the office and collect this road and had it in HIS in 2 hours. So, you know, time, money, it's a huge reduction in both of those. And it keeps our system and our center lines up to date quicker, sooner. So here's one of the first aerials that we had access to, 2004, it's 1 meter. This was a new, I think this is in Jefferson County. So, you know, you can see the new road there. I could probably draw it in with these aerials. It's probably good enough. You click on the brand new stuff, you see a difference, don't you? I know exactly where the road is. I see the shoulders. I see the pavement width. I could draw that in no problem and go on about my day. See. So here's those same 2004 aerials. There is a road in there, but I bet you can't tell where it is. So a lot of places, even these 2004 aerials didn't help us a whole lot. You still got the leaves on the trees. The resolution's not the greatest, but you turn on the new stuff with leaf off, you see the road. I could then draw that in. I could check the alignment of it, whatever I need to do. I don't have to send somebody out in the field. I don't have to ask to add something about it. They don't have to go to the local government, depending on what county it's in, drive there, eat lunch, and I don't have to pay for any of that. That's just 30 minutes of my time. So one project that we did this year was local roads are hard to get information depending on where it is. So an information source that we had were bridge data set. There's a field in there that tells you when the bridge was built. I know that we had in early 2000s, we had a GPS project that GPSed all of our roads. So I kind of figured, you know, if a bridge had been built and realigned before 2000, We probably picked it up. So from about 2002 on to now, we kind of went through and looked at the bridges that had been rebuilt to see if there were any alignment changes. Here's an example of one. So you got your older aerials, it looks fine. You put on the new stuff, you can tell it's been shifted. I think this was maybe done 6 years ago, the bridge replacement. But like I said before, that alignment probably would have stayed there forever. The ads can only do so much. They have other projects they're doing. And the ad's not going to know about this unless the county tells them about it. Counties and cities aren't always great at that. They do something and they go on with their day. So obviously the ad's not going to know about this. We're not going to know about this. So it's just going to stay that way. It's going to stay wrong. But with aerials, we can fix those. Here's another example of a bridge. And say it's been shifted a little north. One thing we also did while we were looking at those bridges was the location of those local road bridges. This was one that was pretty bad. You see in the top, that's where it's currently located, the bridge in our database. You see down in the south, that's where it's actually located. So that would have, I don't know if that would have ever been caught. I don't know. But that's been sent to the appropriate person and is in the process of being changed, fixed. So here's another road that is connecting into another one. It no longer connects there. As you can see, it's going through a creek. I don't know if this road's even there. This looks on the left, looks more like a private driveway, but this is one I can send to our ad and they can check on it. Let's see. So here's a simple, I don't know, this was alignment change and we just had it. I think we just had it wrong. But with aerials, I can tell that's wrong and I can fix it without sending it to anybody. I just take care of it right in the office. There's another one. Easy fix, 30 seconds, it's done. So here's another thing. So we've got new roads in a subdivision. Without aerials, I'm not going to know these are there. The ads aren't going to know they're there unless the court lets them know and shows that they've been adopted. So I've found a lot of these across the state where we don't have additions to subdivisions, and it's because the ads have not been told about them. Usually if it's not in the county, they have their office in, they don't know about them. But we can go through the state, we can find these. I can put these in as private roads until somebody tells me they're county or city. So we can at least get the road and the road name in there and move on. Here's another example of some new roads we didn't have. So just in conclusion, real quick, aerials are saving us ungodly amount of money. Time as well. We could fix things in a day that would probably take months normally. You know, and as technology's gotten better with the aerials getting better resolution, we can do more with them. So I think they're a great asset. I don't want them to ever go away. Do you have any questions for me?
I will start first from the chat. We do not have a question, but we do have a big shout out with multiple heart reactions on it. Ramsey's team are awesome, all caps. Love that they get to work with you. And that is from Pat Lee.
Okay, good deal. You have a question back there? Back in the back.
Yeah, I got two questions. So it sounds like you're using the imagery as the authoritative source, the most accurate layer that you're matching things to.
Mm-hmm.
wondering, are there cases you run into that that's not the case? So the first question is there a documented horizontal accuracy to the imagery?
Yes.
And then do you run into any cases where the source that you might be using, whether it's like a center line or a building footprint, is more accurate, perhaps, captured with more accurate GNSS data, or a engineering as-built or something like that?
So, or your first question, yes, it is. As far as, so I've noticed with aerials over time, if you get a statewide cover, there's going to be skew involved. I've come to some places, I'm like, this whole subdivision is off. Well, it's that imagery that's skewed. And I can tell that by looking at other roads around it, and they're skewed. So I'm like, there's no way this entire region of a county is off. So I don't do anything. That's when I would get the ad to check the alignment, go out and GPS it, all that. Now, if I see a subdivision is skewed, and then right beside it, the subdivision is right on, I know we probably got the subdivision from the ad, and they used the plats to put it in. And as they went out there and constructed, it's actually a little bit different. Not much, but a little bit. We have the center line on the shoulder instead of the center line. I've seen that happen a lot. Now, as far as the more regional stuff, you've got 4 years that make up the whole state. Each year is a different region. I haven't really seen any skewness in those. Those are pretty good. And that's only with local roads. State roads, we have as-builts, we got design plans, we go out and actually GPS them. They're not gonna show up on aerials for a year or two anyway. So just for local roads, we're using those aerials. If we find on an aerial that a state route looks off, like there's been work done, we'll ask the district about it. And then we'll actually send somebody out to GPS it. We're not gonna use an aerial for a state road. But local roads, I think it's fine.
Just to follow up on Pete's question here, it's a good example that you presented on relative accuracy, because we are not dealing with absolute accuracy. So it's a good example of relative accuracy.
Yes. Anybody else?
All right, 2 questions from the chat. Number 1, is there a central email or form submission for the public to notify you guys of inaccurate road center lines?
Will.Holmes at KY. I get emails and calls from the public often. They're not my roads, local road. They're not our roads. I can't answer questions about them. I send them straight to the ad.
Okay.
But just to hop in, you can hit any of our public facing interactive maps, and there's a KYTC GIS support. If you send that to us, we will absolutely get it to Ramsey. We absolutely will.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question. Have we shifted to the new proposed single zone for quality control?
They're probably talking about NatRef 2022. Yeah, not yet.
Still waiting on the feds.
Right.
No.
So for those on Zoom, not yet, because it hasn't been fully adopted by the feds that we've got to coordinate with. So it will come, but not yet. Anything else?
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're running a little bit behind. So I've only got about 190 slides. So I'll be quick.
Probably not long.
I'm below my normal average. Okay. So, one of the things that I want to talk to you about, some of this is going to sound kind of like a broken record, even though, we're following Kent. I swear we didn't coordinate on our two presentations. So I want to talk, how many of y'all know what BIM is or are engaging BIM? Okay, a lot more hands. That's awesome. Digital project delivery or DPD? Okay, couple. All right. So that gives me a little more context and I won't sermonize quite as much, but I just want to advocate again for open sharing data. I know when I got into GIS, my first full-time GIS job was in the private sector, and I would not have been able to do my job without the help of Ken Bates and Kent and other people that were willing to work and share data. So good data needs to be like electricity. You don't have to, when you go to put something in a plug, you don't have to worry about, is it going to be there or not? We need to work towards making data available to each other freely and openly as much as we can. Okay. And again, to Kent's point about data getting reused, this is outdoor advertising devices known as billboards. It's in 10 different interactive maps that we have. Okay. That one piece. I was going to use mile points, but that's in like 104 different interactive maps. So it looked like gibberish there. And again, this UI is something that Jeremy Gould built for us to help us manage our ArcGIS online. So how many people have experienced data hoarding? You need a piece of data and somebody sitting on it won't share. Yep. Been there, done that, right? Okay. Or about overzealous access control to data that should be shared, right? Somebody's got it and they're using it for leverage. Okay. Or you're sitting inside a fortified island. Your data is perfect and it's all the way you want and you're using everything inside of it, but you're not willing to let data in and you're not willing to let data out. Okay. We don't need to be doing that. That might have been something we did in the 90s or maybe even the aughts or maybe even in the teens, but we're way past that. Okay. We need to be open and collaborating as much as possible. Okay, so let's talk about open data, because again, honestly, I've misused the term. For some, open data means it's 100% open. Open, available for anybody to use, to mash up, do whatever they want to with it. Okay? And for some data, I absolutely support that. Okay? For some data, our cabinet can't go there. And that's okay. All right? But we need to advocate for those things that we can share, like our road center lines. We've been sharing our center lines since mid-90s. Free. Here you go. All right. We want everybody to cooperate because all boats rise. Okay. We all benefit if we share with each other. It's far more efficient than if Kent were saying, no, you can't have imagery. Ramsey can't do his job. Right. And conversely, if we didn't say you can have the center lines, then a lot of people can't use that reference to do their job. So we gotta work together. All right. But again, we can't share all of the data inside our cabinet because some is sensitive. All right. But we need open-ish data. Okay. Data liberty. So again, it may be that one area of an agency creates the data, but it's not really theirs. It's an organizational asset. And then you need to look for the public good. And in that case, as much as you can, share that with other people, because not only do other people inside the agency need it, the cabinet is huge, but also other state agencies need it. Local government needs it. If we all share, everybody benefits. Okay. Private sector. Again, I was downloading road center lines before I ever contemplated working for KYTC. So wherever possible, and again, embrace the statue of data liberty. Okay. So again, it's all the things that Kent was talking about. And again, open or at least open-ish. Look at your own organization and advocate for that internally. Okay, we participate in the data portal. We're working to share more. In the last year or so, we've shifted to to licensing it under the CC0 Creative Commons 0, which means, again, it's open to use however you see fit. Private sector is now integrating it into their products. Makes me twirl a little bit that their for-profit is using it to resell. But at this point, I had an engineer give me a philosophical point. If it gets one person home safe at night, then it's worth it. And so our mission is to get people safely to wherever they're going. And if one person gets home and is not a statistic, that's a really good day for us. So we've since changed. We're under CC0 and we're publishing all of that out. There may be a few feature classes we haven't gotten that licensing on yet, but it's coming. So we're committed to it. And all of our services, we're committed to having that licensing under there. And again, we're in a big ecosystem of data, and it's not just GIS sitting by itself. Part of the whole BIM or DPD is we have to collaborate not only with the GIS, but with the engineering side of the house. Okay, we can't sit in an island of our own GIS world. Okay. And we also have partners in the private sector that we need to enable them for them to be successful because they support other parts of the cabinet. For people to understand economic development, this cabinet invests $1 billion a year into the Kentucky economy. All right. So it matters if we do it efficiently, we can get more projects done, get more people home safe. So talking about open data, our new Experience Builder interactive maps are a perfect case in point. It's built with Esri's Experience Builder framework. We're pulling data into ArcGIS Online from AASHTO's bridge management system that's going through Ramsey's LRS management system and then presented to us. And then we get to share it with the world. We're pulling tiles from Elasticsearch that are sitting in the Google Cloud. We have van images because we drive all state roads, state maintained roads, not locals. And that allows us to virtually drive anywhere on state roads. And of course, we're leveraging the 3-inch aerial photography sitting in Amazon. And we have custom tools that one of our team members, Matt, has built that again is presenting out. And we're also embedding Street View, connections to Street View. So again, the user, they don't have to know all these back-end details. It's all just there at their fingertips to use as they want to and need to. And the oblique imagery is there too. So when Kent turns on the new imagery, we don't have to change anything, or the new UI, we don't change anything. It's just there. The new viewer is there. People don't have to click through the license. And finally, we're also leveraging a spatial API that one of our team members, Jeremy, built to give us detail about where you are on that particular section of road, and then the attributes about that location, lanes, lane widths, all kinds of other things. So again, we are very dependent on Kentucky from Above. It is a core foundational tool that we use. That imagery is there, available to all of our consumers. Whoops, hit the wrong button. The obliques are there embedded. It's a great feature that people really value. We get a lot of positive feedback about that. So this concept of Kentucky from Above being a key piece, it's part of what we do. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about BIM and DPD. Since y'all already know what better information management or building information management or whatever flavor you want to call it, won't wade into that too deeply, but it's the entire life cycle of those individual transportation assets. We're not worried about just getting it to construction or getting it through construction. That's only the beginning point. that asset can live for 100 years or more. And maintenance of that throughout its lifespan is really important. Well, if you knew that there were 18 change orders on that bridge and there were all kinds of things that went wrong in the construction of that, if that information is at your fingertips, it lets the maintenance engineer make better decisions than if she is having to try to guess what's going on. All right. So where the cabinet is headed is to this digital project delivery and BIM eventually. Okay. All of this is driven by a virtual representation, a digital model of that asset. Okay. It's shifting from flat plans that are instructions to construction to a living model that's going to be used throughout the life of that product. So it's coming. Federal Highways is pushing. All the DOTs are talking about it. We're all trying to get it figured out. We're coordinating with each other. There are efforts at state, national, and even international efforts to get this done. I'm participating in parts of that. And again, in order for this to happen, we have to have openish data flow, not only within the cabinet, but with our partners, all of our partners, okay, for us to be successful now and into the future. So why the urgency for digital project delivery? Construction is woefully behind compared to other parts of the U.S. economy. It has not grown in efficiency per full-time worker compared to other parts of the economy. And so even though we have machine control and GPS and other things that have created some efficiencies, we actually are falling behind more. So we've got to do things differently. And for us, it lowers the total cost of ownership. It saves us time. It increases safety. With DPD, they're seeing shortening construction cycles. So the same project that might have taken a year and a half in the past, we may be able to shave a month or 2 months off of that. Well, that's a month or 2 months where people aren't driving through a work zone. Much higher probability to crash in a work zone because of congestion or lane changes that people aren't expecting. Much more likely if a worker is there, even though there are barriers, there are all kinds of things we do to try to protect workers. Unfortunately, people still die. I think there's posters out front that you can talk, that we honor the people that have been killed in the line of duty trying to maintain our roads. So we want to keep people as safe as possible. So long term, it's not just construction cycle over and over and over, but GIS has its own loop. So it's an infinity loop between the engineering side and the GIS side. They have to fit together to work, okay? And that's where we're headed. So part of what we're doing is through IFC. Anybody working with IFC right now? Okay. The QR code will link you to it. Industry Foundation class files, but it's really a data model behind that. And the great thing about that is it's truly open. So that means you don't have to have everything in Esri or everything in Bentley or everything in Autodesk. It's open. What does that mean? That means if you get frustrated with a particular vendor, you can go to a different vendor. You're not trapped inside of a single piece of software. Okay. It also means you can collaborate across traditional boundaries, CAD versus GIS. All right. It's getting efficient. All right. So all the major players that we normally talk about are directly involved in this. They're at the table, they're actively working. But just like Kent was talking about, we need you to talk to them. We do need y'all talking to your various software representatives that you want them to support IFC. You want them to support open data exchange. Okay. Not just at the file base, but at the service base. Okay. Whoops. So what's the payoff? We're talking huge payoffs in efficiency. Thousands and thousands and thousands of hours per year saved. by having this open data format and using this. Okay. Again, 15% ROI on change orders alone, just change orders. The country of Singapore is seeing a 30% increase in productivity. They are knocking it out of the park. Now they're smaller than Rhode Island, so they're a tiny footprint. So it's easier for them to do everything than those of us that are the size of Kentucky or other states. But we can learn from them. We can embrace what's going on internationally and jump forward ahead of where we are right now. We don't have to figure it out on our own. There's been a ton of work in Scandinavia, as well as places like Singapore, China, etc. So we need to learn from them. As a colleague of mine says, we got to do R&D, rip off and deploy. If it's working well for them, take it, use it, apply it. So again, a lot of work's already been done. This is change, and change is hard, but we can do it, and we are committed to it. Our cabinet is committed to it. But I think if you're in a local agency or another part of state government, if you have engineering staff inside your agency, at some point you're going to be having a communication about this, right? So learn from others. If we need to collaborate on that at a GIAC level, we could absolutely do that as a subcommittee. So if there are interested parties involved in that, we can start that conversation or start doing that. I'll make a pitch for modeling through time. That's another part of BIM that's important. I know when I first started getting involved in GIS, everybody treated whatever their data as right now. It's current. It may have been captured in 1970, but everybody treated it as current. Make sure that you're preserving time so that you can do those time series analysis things that need to happen. Validation checking is critical. You've got to have a QA and governance process in place. Build and implement incrementally small bites. Enjoy your successes, celebrate them, continue to move forward. So again, we got to invest in standards, force the software industry to honor that, and then role-based education. Not everybody needs to have all the same information, but if you're a facilitator, you've got to have a solid foundation in what these things are. So we in the Transportation Cabinet, we've been on this journey for a while. We have a core team that actively works weekly on digital project delivery and BIM. We're running pilot projects right now, and we have a website that's the QR code for it. Again, you can get resources, videos, etc. there. UK has their highway knowledge portal, which again has some of the digital project delivery information embedded within that. That's another QR code in case you want to reference that. And again, we're moving from this 2D plan set thinking to 3D models because it gives so much value in what we do. You know, just the ability to identify errors and correct them before you get to the field and deal with headaches. It increases the accuracy of the estimates so that, again, the bids that come back, private sector prices risk. So if you're kind of vague and loose with things, they're going to charge you more than if you're really clear and precise. So the more we can minimize risk to them, the better the price and product we get from them. So always be aware of that. You can also communicate with non-geeks, non-technical people, because they can visualize in ways that they can't read a topo map. They don't natively do that anymore. So now we can do 3D visualization to help them. And again, these models have attribution so that it flows more naturally into GIS. The more you work with your engineering side, the more benefit you're going to have long-term. So Pete, part of what you were asking about, that level of accuracy, and part of what Ramsey answered, we are, as part of this DPD effort, we are trying to bake in more and more assets flowing from the design as built into the asset management system so that that accuracy will be preserved and the details will be there from the initial design through construction and into GIS and eventually back into planning, design, et cetera. It's closing the cycle of life. So this is just an example of clash detection where you've got an electrical cable that was originally designed and it's going through a drop box for water, for wastewater. Not good. That's bad. So we're now able to catch that in the design, not the headache in the field and construction. On the Kentucky 3155 project that's being built in District 4 right now, we're doing this. This is a pilot project where we're looking at the level of need. We're addressing a railroad bridge that's in construction, and we're testing how inspectors can use GPS rover equipment to more precisely confirm, yes, this is the way it was designed, that's the way it's built. It's also going into machine control, which for those of you that aren't familiar, that's where you got a guy or a girl sitting on a bulldozer, but they're not really driving. They're watching the video game. The instructions are already baked in, and it's being driven by this 3D model with GPS integrated. And finally, we're doing augmented reality. So this is an example where you're standing out on broken dirt, but you can see what the road's going to look like. All right. That was captured last week, I think, week before. So recently. And this is a railroad bridge that's they're starting to or about to start working on. So again, you can stand out on the site and kind of look at where things are and where things are going to be. So how will this change your GIS work? First of all, if you have vertical, i.e. buildings, or horizontal things, utilities, roads, et cetera, that you have responsibilities for, you're going to be involved in BIM or DPD, okay? It'll come from the engineering side like we talked about, but again, the GIS loop is really important. We don't need to treat those as islands. They need to work together. So become familiar with the basics, IFC, general terminology about BIM, and other open data formats. There are also more and more APIs. If you need to reference linear referencing stuff from the cabinet, we have an API that you can tap to give you county route mile point, ADT, functional class, a ton of other data. It's there, available, it's self-documented, you can experiment with it. If you go to our KYTC maps page, it's there, a link is there off of that, and you can experiment with it. So again, you can blend it into what you're working on without having to download something else, without having to do a whole lot. It's there and available to you, and it's updated every week. So again, we're keeping this as tight and current as we can. Okay, so embrace those things. Don't stay an island if you are. Embrace the journey. Okay, getting to BIM is a very big lift. It's not going to happen overnight, but we have to get there. We as the GIS community need to get there. So make sure that you demand from your software vendors. Make sure you're thinking about that openness as you work forward. Be flexible. If you run into something, don't get stuck on the obstacle. Celebrate your successes. And finally, I want to leave you with the 10 commandments of open data. So, all right. Don't use open data in vain. A lot of people talk, but we need to deliver. That means we have to push on breaking down those barriers. Again, data integrity. It is so important. Okay. Not everything's perfect. I'm a huge fan of record level metadata because again, you can tell people that one record is the one that's a little kludgy, but it gives you the freedom and them the confidence to know how to use your data the right way. And it needs to bake into your larger data governance plan. So honor your creator and your consumer, please. And don't kill data sharing, please. Okay. How many of you have had a data set you loved and all of a sudden the owner takes it away? All right. Hurts. It really hurts. So Don't duplicate data if you can use a service, if at all possible. All right. Don't steal. Honor and respect the people that have put the blood, sweat, and tears into creating that data and pay that forward. Don't bear false witness. There are certain software vendors I am not fond of, but if they're helping us get to BIM and DPD, I need them to come with us. Okay. So I know it's a favorite water cooler thing to kind of sit around and complain, but we need to help people in the journey. They may not be in the same place we are, but we need to help bring them along. Okay. And don't covet your neighbor's data, right? Or their donkey. Okay. So again, I love Lao Tzu. A single step forward is on the right path. So join the journey with me and everybody else. And remember why we work to do this. Okay. It's really about people and making sure they get home safe. All right. Okay. So questions, comments, snide remarks?
We have 2 questions from the chat. The first one, will a recording of this meeting be shared via email in general?
That would be KAMP. Okay. We will do our best to figure out distribution, but we like the idea.
Perfect. And then as an elaboration on that, will the AI companion feature allow you to generate a transcript and synopsis for reference of this meeting?
Okay, so there is a transcript, and again, if we can figure out to get it shared, we absolutely will. Okay. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
I've got kind of a more specific technical question for you guys. When you say you use the utilities data, water and sewer lines, are you getting that from Kentucky Infrastructure Authority that gets published?
Yeah, through DGI, the way it's shared,
Mhm.
then we consume that from there.
Okay.
With a caveat, there are certain things inside of our right of way where we coordinate directly with utilities. Again, the long-term goal that we're working towards is to be able to properly locate all the utilities in our right of way and then properly share and communicate. Some of that data is deemed sensitive, and so we have to work with that local utility. But the goal is, at a minimum, we want to share back to the utility what gets built the right way so that, again, we get everybody using the right authoritative information that's as accurate as possible.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I ask because I'm with the Bluegrass ad and collecting utility data at the moment, and I've got some people very much in the data hoarding. So if I can say that, we're collecting this as for KYTC as well, I think that'll be.
So we are trying, if you want to, you can send me an email and I can connect you to our utility staff.
Okay.
Who can work with you. Because if you're collecting it for KYTC, then ultimately it would be Jennifer's team that will be the principal consumer of that, not the sole consumer, but principal. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Will.
Hey, Matt.
Question, how are you finding the reception of BIM in your digital project delivery from your design staff and your engineers and the consulting community? I always feel like we're very good collaborators on the GIS side, and we understand the value of sharing data and what GIS can provide to those other folks that are involved. But seems like sometimes they don't quite get it or understand. So how are you guys dealing with that? Or if you're seeing that, I guess, how are you dealing with it?
Sure. So again, right now we're kind of, even though we've been working at it for years, we're relatively early in the journey. And so we've got pilot projects going where we've got particular consultants who are enthusiastic. Sometimes within the enthusiastic consultant, we'll have reluctant individual team members. Okay. That's the reality of when you're creating change. Change is risk, change is unknown. We have to work through it. And that's why I talked about meet them where they are and help them along. That can be challenging. That can be, because there are moments where you're just frustrated. It's like, come on, y'all, this is so obvious, but it's not obvious to them, right? But I will say over the last year, we're getting more momentum. We're not where we need to be. We're not where we want to be, but we are getting some. With that said, HIDUG, which is the Highway Design User Group meeting, was last week. And we got work to do to win all the hearts and minds we need to win inside the cabinet, but also in the professional community. But like I was showing, you know, the little freight train coming, it's coming. DOT is or FHWA is very committed to that. So when we're talking about highway transportation specific, but every state DOT that I'm talking to across the nation, they are all working the problem. They are all trying to get there because frankly, we can't do it the old fashioned way. Just like Ramsey was talking about, we don't have the staffing. We can't pretend that we're going to go hire 1,000 more people to do it the old fashioned way. We've got to be smart with our investment. And so part of it is you're going to help us or you're going to get run over. And I'm not trying to be mean about it, but it's like change is coming. The same thing, people talk about AI sometimes. It's here. It's already here. That doesn't mean we jump in blindly, but you've got to embrace that change and surf it. Don't fight the ocean, surf it. So, okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank y'all very much. Huh? Okay. I don't think I have your, go back here. What's that?
Here it is, KDFWR presentation a few seconds ago. Damn, Trey.
It's fresh. It's fresh.
Yeah, busy.
You're as bad as me. Hey, we're swinging it. Do y'all need 2 microphones?
We're gonna take turns.
Okay. You should be good to go.
Hey, everybody. I'm Trey Prather. I'm the GIS Program Coordinator at the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources. Our division, or our, I guess, I don't know what you call us, but my group consists of myself, Daren Jones, and Dana Vichabanda, who's in the back. We handle quite a few different data sets from across the state. We handle all of the collection, the observations that come in from the scientific and education permits that are required to submit their species observations to us. We do the mapping for the 135 WMAs and public hunting areas we have across the state that comprise over 1.7 million acres. We help facilitate surveys of species across the state and all sorts of habitat analysis. And first and foremost, I'd like to say that it's great to live in the state of Kentucky where we have access to so many great data sets. I know in my group, we use the data from KYFromAbove on a daily basis. We use the Division of Water data sets, our friends at OKNP. Everybody, just thank you for what you contribute to the state, and hopefully we'll give some of it back to you guys. So I was going to discuss a couple of different ways that we use that data here at KDFWR. And lately we have dove into Experience Builder quite a bit. I started in 2021, and a lot of our workflows were based in Personal Geodatabase and ArcMap. And a lot of my group were slow to adapt to ArcGIS Pro. Many of them still won't. Many of them are close to retirement, and they say, I'm going to retire, so I'm not going to bother to learn it. So the challenge becomes, okay, so In the past, we would build template personal geodatabases, send them out to field staff in different areas of the state. They would fill out their data sets for WMAs or various surveys we would collect. Then we would combine them back into a data set back at KDFWR and then distribute our public products that way. And I don't like that. So I've been in ArcGIS Online probably since 2016, 2017, from back when I started in forestry. And I'm a big fan of cloud hosted data sets. However, one limitation that I have found was in ArcGIS Online was the ability to manage relational data outside of Survey 123, but Experience Builder is a great solution to that. Some of the advantages that I've found with Experience Builder are it simplifies workflows for non-GIS specialized staff. A lot of people just want to drive a tractor, and submitting their data to us is a pain that we have to bug them for constantly. It works great with relational data. The cloud hosted data sets, centralized products, so we can build secondary products that go out to the public. It creates an advanced functionality for users, flexibility, and we're able to standardize the data that we get. So I'm going to present on a workflow I've developed for our private lands program. And then after me, Daren's going to present our trail inspector workflow. And I know we're the last group before lunch, so we'll try and keep it as quick as possible. So our private lands program. So we do manage 1.7 million acres of public land and provide access to the public that way. But what a lot of people don't realize is we also have a private lands division with 95% of the state being privately owned. We have a group of 16 employees whose job is to reach out to private landowners who own tracts of land 25 acres or more and work with them to help facilitate funding and implement habitat management practices on their lands that benefit them and benefit the state by providing habitat to whatever goals they see fit. Not necessarily just game animals. A lot of people put in pollinator plantations, all sorts of things. We also like to educate the public on what is available to them, what is good practices for their lands, and facilitate that any way that we can. So you can see here, we have 16 staff that reach every county in the state. Some are better with ArcGIS Pro than others, I will say that, which kind of drove the need for this workflow. So I'll go ahead and show this off. We're going to have to log in ArcGIS Online. Okay. So the idea here was with our private lands, the workflow is they will reach out, a landowner will reach out to us and say, I would like some assistance managing my property. And so they will enroll their farm in our private lands program. And then our private lands liaisons will go out to their property, delineate their boundary, come up with a management plan for said property. And then once that program is enrolled, there can be a series of practices that go in on that property throughout time. So what I've got here is my experience that allows for data management, for advanced digitizing of data, for reporting all in one. Our staff are required to submit to the NRCS, which David Chan's in here somewhere. I saw him. He used to, we worked on this a while ago back before, unfortunately, our divisions parted ways. But this is what I've kind of developed here lately. If it will load, that would be nice. All right. So we have internet in here. So here's my property right here in red. And there's also an accompanying field map with this application. So staff in the field can go out to a land with a property owner, can delineate the boundary of their property in the field, or they can draw it in the office before going out there. And they do not draw square grids. I promise you, they're actual polygons. There we go. So once they've got that property, they can pull up the editing widget right here. This is great. All right. It's amazing, isn't it? So maybe we'll skip this part. Oh, there we go. All right. So they can select their farm. Well, this is going to load too slowly, so I'll just keep it. Okay, there we go. And it pulls up the feature. And you can see all the related features there as well. If they would like to add a new practice to the farm, they can, click point, line, or polygon features and digitize a new feature within the boundary of their farm. Anyone had to deal with feature templates in ArcGIS Online? Yeah, they just added that ability to the new map viewer, which has made my life a million times easier. I don't know if anyone else held that stroke. So you can digitize your polygon practice right here. Computer cooperates. And fill in their attributes, and there you go. And you've got a related data set tied to that farm. And that's important because when it comes time for our staff to do reporting, I've got the dashboard here where, I guess the internet's just slow in here or something. But they can select their farm. It'll pull up all of the related practices to their farm. They can export it in an ICSV. And then they can also export a GeoJSON from this layer. I'll skip over it because it's not working right. But they can export GeoJSON to upload into the NRCS's conservation desktop portal, where they're required to submit a shape for the practice and an accompanying document. So go back here. Where is the present? There. Where's that? Ha. Yeah. I don't use PowerPoint a whole lot. Yeah. So basically, it's a centralized data set where the data is organized in a way that makes reporting simple for management and for field staff. We get clean data. I wasn't able to show it because for some reason the internet's not cooperating, but the new advanced editor in ArcGIS Online brings a lot of new digitizing tools that used to be stuck in ArcGIS Pro. You can integrate them into your experience builders. You can make multi-part features, you can split features, you can create holes in features, which is very big for us for habitat practices like edge feathering, anything like that. We can generate buffers, and it's been a very useful tool for us. So the result is we've cut out the fat between our field staff and our office here in Frankfurt. And we've wound up with a cleaner, better product. Our private land staff, who were initially hesitant to pick up a hosted workflow as opposed to what they were used to, love it. And they've said it makes their life a lot easier. So, all right. Now Daren's going to talk about our trails inspector. Yeah, just keep going.
Hello, everybody. I'm Daren Jones. I work at KDFWR with Trey and Daniel. So we were kind of, I guess, given the task of trying to find all of our trails. From DGI, they wanted to get a master layer of all the trails and have all of who has it and when they're updated and all the trail points and all this information. And there was many meetings setting up data standards. And, that was all fine and great and everything. But then when we finalized the data standards, then I was given this massive template and said, here, populate it. And it was a challenge. Our data, it was just all over the place. I mean, we have an R drive. I have several terabytes of just folders and folders, new 2, new 3, and it was awful. So I ended up just searching the whole R drive for anything that contained the word trail, and I got all kinds of things. It was a nightmare. And so they gave us this this task to do. And initially I started looking at it and went, yeah, this doesn't sound too bad. And then I started digging with the data and realized I don't have enough time. This is a lot of work, and who knows when this data was updated last. I have no idea. Some of the stuff was from 1990. It was old. So our data was mostly stored in our network drives, but some of it was from these WMAs out in the far east, far west Kentucky. It's just on some external hard drive that's been sitting around on the shelf for 15 years. So I was kind of looking at all this and was like, man, why is this like this? I just really was having a hard time trying to wrap my brain around how to fix all this data and get it back to DJI in a fairly quick manner. So when it all came together, I had about 600 trails and a little over 1,300 miles in total distance. So that's a pretty solid amount of trails and area and everything for an organization that doesn't necessarily create and manage trails. So we have quite a few, and a lot of them started as game trails that then hunters would use, and then more people used them, and so over time they just kind of became established trails. And so we were just really racking our brains on how to fix this data, and so then we were like, let's try this thing called Experience Builder. And so we had a couple of needs that we had. We had to have multiple editors. It had to update all the time. It had to use the domains because I had trail 1, trail 2. It was awful, and it needed to be very simple for our users. So when I came down to it, I came up with this application, if it'll load. So I mentioned that the users needed to have the ability to do this very easily. So I created a nice little video, embedded it directly into into Experience Builder. You can watch it or not. So I was left with this, my trail inspector. And so this area here is Fish and Wildlife's main headquarters here in town. And okay. There we go. Stuff is supposed to be loading in. All right, so the general gist is we had all this data that was existing, and I had no idea if it was good, bad, otherwise. And I had land managers all over the state that they know their area best, and I don't. I've never been to most of these areas, so trying to tell them that their data is wrong doesn't go over well. So what I did is I created this, sent it to them, and was like, hey guys, you know your data best, fix it. And initially there was a little bit of pushback. They were very hesitant to start messing with things. But what they were realizing is I linked in the KYFromAbove imagery into this, and they were like, wow, we can actually see the trails walking through the forest here. They didn't need to physically go out there. They could just see the trails, and they were able to map them out. So what I did is I just threw this little editing widget together, and what they can do is just select an existing trail that I had, which I'm not even going to bother trying to edit one of these, but it'll select. They can modify the features, they can hit update, they can apply all the domains that we had decided for through the work groups, and they hit update, and that's it. They're done. So these land managers went in, they made some edits, they told me, hey, everything is good. Then I get the data and I look at it and go, wow, yeah, this is way better. And they renamed trails that I would have had no idea what the names are. And so yeah, it just worked beautifully. And everyone that I talked to, they were very surprised with how easy it was to see the areas, see the trails through the trees, because some of these land managers had never seen any of this kind of data before. And yeah, it just was really good. And I got a lot of positive feedback. And there's an accompanying field maps with this as well, which uses some of the offline areas. And so if they wanted to, they could get on their 4x4 and just go out and track the area. And it ended up doing really well. And so I processed this data on my end, sent it up to DGI, and from what I understand, it went pretty well. So yeah, that's pretty much the trail inspector. Does anyone have any questions? Let's get my 2 cents.
But I'll say,
Yeah.
one of the biggest advantages of Experience Builder for us is we are able to leverage those services, the statewide data layers that would normally be too heavy to include in static maps, template projects we would send out to our staff. Everyone can work on the same authoritative data set, the same authoritative project.
I had a question regarding your video. How did you like film it? Like, and
Okay.
on what platform did you film it?
Okay, yeah. So it was actually took a little bit of trial and error. So what I ended up doing was started a Teams meeting, recorded myself in Teams, and then when that exported a video, I hosted that video in Google Drive, which by default has all the videos set up as a YouTube link. And so then once you have a video that's saved to a cloud service, you can then take that YouTube video and embed it in the web map. So it's a little janky and probably could be done better, but it worked.
That's a standard thing we're starting to do in all of our experiences is we have with the menu widget, you can add like a little link section. If I could ever get up here and click this part, the Teams thing getting in the way. But yeah, like here, all of our experiences, we embed little links to online videos. So our staff that aren't very GIS savvy don't have to ask us 10 times a year, hey, how do I go in here and draw a feature? How do I append to this data set? They just go in here and click the link and then it's right there for them. Anyone else? Yes.
Does your trail inspector, do you have a public facing web map to view those?
So we had considered doing that. The only problem with that is we wanted to make sure that the people who were the authoritative source on that were making the changes. So for us, since it's trails on Fish and Wildlife property, we wanted to make sure it was our staff that were editing that.
Well, and also the goal of the trails is that that's our editing project, right? So we do a little QA/QC on the back end of that, and then the data gets sent to DGI where I don't believe the trails data is up yet, is it, Kent?
Oh, yeah.
Is it up?
It's
Okay.
up, there's a viewer, it's on AGOL. Yeah, it's out there. everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So the authoritative data set comes from DGI.
And it was submitted to USGS.
Anybody else? All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Sorry, the network was.
That's fine.
It's always cool.
I'll talk to Travis, see if we can't do better next year.
Sorry, I'll just do screenshots next year.
Yeah.
I was gonna sign out of ArcGIS Online, but is that your computer?
Yeah.
Just sign me out later.
Sure, I will do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so before everybody bolts, I think, Matt, you want to come up here and chat for a second?
All right, real quick, just before lunch, don't want to stand in between you all and lunch. On behalf of the nomination committee, the KAMP board nomination committee, would just like to invite you all to nominate someone for the KAMP board. As always, the position of president-elect is available. That is a 3-year term. Secretary is up this year. That's on a 2-year term that alternates with the treasurer. And then we elect 3 directors each year as well. So invite you to use the QR code. That'll take you to a Survey 123 form and nominate someone for one of those positions. So give that some consideration. Also, you might find laying around today a couple of these that have the same QR code on it that will take you to that survey to nominate someone for the KAMP board. So we would greatly appreciate that. And that's it. Thanks, Will.
Sure. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, JMT are going to speak to us. Again, a big thank you for lunch and Stacks. It was excellent. So now Noor and Tony are going to talk to you about JMT.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you enjoyed lunch. I wanted to thank KAMP and KYTC for the opportunity to sponsor, but also to present today. My name is Tony Bianchi. I'm a director with JMT Technology Group. And here today with me is Noor Salam. Noor is a senior GIS analyst in our Lexington office. And also Danelle Hall, who's sitting over here. Danelle is in charge of operations for the Commonwealth of Kentucky for JMT. Just tell you a little bit about JMT. This is our footprint. We're mostly on the East Coast. We do have staff out in Colorado and some in the West Coast, and also a large presence in Texas. We are an engineering, architecture, and planning firm. We also happen to have the technology group, of which Noor and I are part of. And what we do is we provide technology solutions both to clients, but also we support internal initiatives at JMT and the other engineering disciplines. So if you look up here on the screen, we have the different services areas at JMT, very certainly concentrated in the engineering field. So we're out helping collect data, provide services. And on the survey side, we have an architecture group. And certainly Noor and I are in the information technology segment of the company. As far as the technology group is concerned, what I can tell you is JMT is about 2,600 employees. Within the technology group, we're about 100 of those employees. We are 100% employee owned. We are an ESOP, and we're looking forward to later this month finding out what the price is this year on the stock. We were just named number 50 on the ENR, and within our team, we have 18 GSPs as well as 7 data specialists. So that composes part of the 100 people. We were established as a company in 1971. And right now we're a silver partner with Esri, with gold is expected in the June timeframe. So we've been doing this for over 30 years. And then within the technology group itself, these are the different areas in which we work. The GIS asset management, digital experience, which is certainly new and upcoming, a lot of new cutting edge technologies coming there. Accessibility like ADA. Software services, we're also a software developer that includes GIS at times, sometimes it does not. Data and analytics, as well as smart mobility. And smart mobility incorporates things like ITS. One of the things you might not know is we manage the Cumberland Gap Tunnel down in Middlesboro. So our staff is there. That's managed by part of the company. So that's just a little bit about JMT. To give you some background, we merged with Vaughan and Melton. So if anybody knows the Vaughan and Melton name, that's where you may be more familiar with JMT. So in the Kentucky market, we have offices here close by in Lexington and also in Middlesboro, and that was shown on the previous chart. What I'm going to do now is I want to turn it over to Noor. She's going to give some examples of different projects, some of the things we've been working on, just how you apply GIS and some of the fields we work, but also some of the technologies that may not be GIS focused that we thought may be of interest to you. So Noor.
Thank you, Tony. And thank you again to KYTC for hosting us. And I'm really glad we were able to support local business with Stack's Barbecue. And thank you to the people who helped with the cleanup. I really appreciate it. Definitely takes off the stress of presenting. So I want to tell you about how we used all the services that Tony just talked about, or just a couple of highlights of those. So at JMT, we are collaborators. And I'm going to talk to you about this project. Well, first of all, because it's a really cool project. It's about 54,000 acres of the Commonwealth that was used to further outdoorsmanship by the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Department. But also, I want to talk to you about this project because it is the pivotal example of collaboration within our company. So what's happening here? The Cumberland Forest WMA is this property in the southeast of Kentucky. It's spread across 3 counties, Bell, Knox, and Leslie. And the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Department wanted to put a public access easement on it. For that to happen, we had to utilize our surveys department to do a property boundary survey. And we also needed to do an environmental site assessment. So what you're seeing here on the right is a dashboard that was built for the surveyors to share their progress for this very long-term project with the client. And this dashboard also utilizes arcade expressions to show some cumulative percentages across the different statuses of surveying. I started with JMT approximately 2 years ago. And this was around the time that this project was taken off. And I'm very happy to say that at this point in time, yes, 1 million feet of the boundary is now completed and marked in the field out of the 1.6 million feet total. The surveying work would not be possible without utilizing the Kentucky from Above program imagery data. And this is especially important during the validation, or also called second pass phase, where our CAD technicians take Kentucky from Above imagery and validate survey points on top of it. So what happened with this project is that we all came together. It's an amazing project because we got to collaborate with so many different departments, and I get to do that almost every day with my job. For this project, for the Cumberland Forest WMA, also known as the Ataya project previously, we had 59 different people involved, 3 different disciplines, and 13 different offices. And the 13 offices really come from the fact that when we need to pool resources for a big project, we can, because we have a work share policy. And so I'm just really proud of the work that went in and the level of collaboration that went in. So how did we collaborate? I showed you the GIS team build a dashboard for the surveyors. Then the GIS team also built a field map and a Survey 123 app for the environmental scientists to do their field work. And then in turn, the surveyors and environmental scientists collaborated in the field because the surveyors knew the terrain, which is very rough terrain, and they knew it very well. And they tag team with environmental scientists on an ATV to navigate the rough terrain together. So everyone collaborated together. Next up, diving into the more techie side of JMT, I would like to talk to you about 2 projects that showcase our ability to help our clients with public outreach and digital delivery. So first up, we have the Route 46 and New Road intersection improvements. And JMT here proposed and designed a 1-lane roundabout in Mahoning County, Ohio, where a traffic light now controls traffic. So this simulation, this driving simulation, utilizes a near map reality mesh of location and a Bentley Open Roads model of this new roundabout laid on top of the existing conditions. In addition to that, we used an AI simulated traffic experience. So what happens is that this realistic representation of a new design helps people experience the traffic flow, experience the alignment before it's even constructed. So you can experience it before it's constructed. We took this driving simulation on the road. It's always on the road. Actually, it's very hard to It's a reserve in our company, and we had it at Kentuckians for Better Transportation this past January. And it'll be featured again. You can catch it again at SASHTO in Lexington this August. Now, I have another cool example I want to show you, and it's our virtual spaces solution. So Pennsylvania DOT gave us this Downingtown Station project, and their goal was that they wanted to work with Amtrak to provide ADA compliant rail stations between Philadelphia and Harrisburg. So to provide the public with an opportunity to review all these updated new plans, they wanted a way to engage a wide audience. And so they conducted a normal public meeting, an in-person public meeting. That was followed with the JMT Virtual Spaces platform. And it was a really great follow-up because while the in-person meeting was well attended, sometimes public meetings can be very crowded. Sometimes people want to explore the information at their own pace. Some people may not voice their opinions in a very crowded room. So this virtual follow-up was a great way for people to review project plans, provide feedback, look at a 3D model, and collect visitor contact and information. This solution is also great for people who find it difficult to access an in-person public meeting for any reason. And I'm just really glad that there's a way to enhance this public engagement and expand it twofold. So now for our final project for today, I'm gonna jump back into my very mappy GIS shoes and tell you about the Johns Hopkins University Homewood campus map. Before we got involved, this was the Johns Hopkins accessibility map. Now, you can see that this is a printable PDF map. There may not be a lot of contrast. There's a lot of room for improvement. And specifically, the university wanted to turn this into an interactive map because that could provide a lot more capabilities. Well, they took it a step further. They didn't just want an interactive map. They wanted a wayfinding application that meets all accessibility levels, no matter what they are. And they wanted an application that worked with mobile and desktop. So if you've tried to open a PDF on your phone, you know the struggle. Using ArcGIS Indoors, we built an innovative wayfinding map that combines the customized base map that you're seeing right here, and it was built by our awesome user experience designer, Rachel. It also shows the different pathways in the Homewood campus by accessibility, and it shows accessible entrances as well. You can click on a building, whether on mobile or on the web, see the information about it, and then you can find your path to another building based on the accessibility level needed. This app was also, this app featured, whoops, spoiler alert. This app also featured a route network that was fitted to the ArcGIS indoor model. And it definitely was not easy to develop this route network because you need every single path to be exactly connected with another. And if you've worked with topology before, you know that when 4 paths meet, topology will know when 2 out of those intersect. What about the other 2? Are they intersected? Great. Are all 4 of them intersected together at one point? Topology is not capable of doing that. And our resident GIS developer built an ArcGIS add-in that allowed a quicker processing of this data quality task to make sure every single path had the 4 paths connected in one intersection, not 2. So that was a really cool, my favorite part of this project, along with everything else that I showed you. And if you thought this map was cool, Esri did too. And yes, that is Jack Dangermond giving JMT and Johns Hopkins the Esri Partner Award, GIS for Good. And I'm really glad that this project was recognized because the team that I'm part of and the team that worked on it was just really exceptional. And I want to thank you for listening to us and for letting us host lunch. And if you have any questions about what I showed you, please reach out to Tony or I. You can also visit our jmtttg.com website and see a lot more information about these projects that we just talked about and way more. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nor. Thank you, Tony. Really good work. Really good work. Okay. Okay. So next up is EEC. Jean-Luc. So we don't get into okay, it's cooperating.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. I don't know if this is picking me up well or not. Can you all hear me okay? Awesome. My name is Jean-Luc Dobson. I'd like to thank Ken Anness and the KYFromAbove program for inviting me out today to talk about EEC. So I'm essentially the GIS lead for EEC. My official title is more IT oriented, but I mainly focus on GIS services and administration of servers and whatnot. And so what I want to talk to you all about today is how we integrate KYFromAbove imagery into different workflows throughout the cabinet. So in this presentation, we'll cover a couple different use cases that the cabinet has. Users from the cabinet provided upon request to me. Some of those that provided these use cases are with us today. So, you know, if you have any questions about workflow specifics or anything, I have no issue doing some legwork to find that out for you. You'll see examples from conservation, forestry, and water. And then a little bit about OAS GIS. We support over 600 GIS users. Mind you, that's not 600 people using GIS daily, but it's still pretty significant amount. And we've been going through pro transition and web app builder transitions like everyone else. So if anyone wants to talk about that stuff, I'm more than welcome to talk about it. So first up, we have Mark Davis with conservation. He sent in an example of him using some of the imagery that KYFromAbove provides. He uses it to enhance his boundary maps for conservation. A lot of these boundary maps are for ag districts, and he's using the imagery alongside property descriptions with PVA and deeds to form these boundaries. The land description that's within the deed is actually the same boundary that is the ag district. So this imagery helps enhance the communication of visual aspects that ag district owners would like to see. And it also kind of just gives them a better idea of, you know, what they're working with. In the image, you see, we've been working on a demo viewer for conservation data. It's a demo, so it's still a work in progress, but I just wanted to show a little bit of that, and it's just got a few attributes that it's describing there. For the forestry use cases, number one here, both use cases were provided by Rebecca Ramsey, which I believe she's here with us today. KDF has a web experience. KDF is Kentucky Division of Forestry. Web experience that's built for internal use. It's currently in beta testing, and they're looking to put it out sometime this fall. This is used to show historical fire activities, such as dozer lines or hand lines related to past fire polygons. Pictured is the home page of the viewer, and as you'll see, point number 4, click on any feature, and in the pop-up, click the KYFromAbove button to see the imagery of this location. So to continue on that, dozer lines and hand lines are constructed to remove vegetation and create barriers that help stop or slow the spread of wildland fires. Dozer lines are made using heavy machinery for rapid wide clearance, while hand lines are built by firefighters. And so we've got two examples of perimeters that they've worked with in the past. One of them with aerials and one of them without. Examples of dozer lines and hand lines. I didn't know much about this myself, so this was educational for me as well. Dozer line on a tree farm, like I described, it's just these paths that they carve out so that they can navigate to the fire areas. And then, of course, an example of firefighters using hand tools rather than the machinery. Some parts the dozers just can't get to. When Division of Forestry has external resources that come in from outside the state, like in 2023, or when KDF personnel has one county that they're working in is different from where they're usually at, they're able to use this viewer and the knowledge that's behind it to kind of acclimate themselves to the area. In the local branch office, the personnel will be able to select a historical item in the experience build, click the pop-up, and then navigate to that same area that they're clicking on inside of the viewer. So they would click that button, and then it would show where they were inside the KYFromAbove Explorer. Now, I won't steal all of Lucas's thunder here, I promise. He's going to have much more information about it than I will. But I thought this was super cool. So yeah, they can write notes, they can create PDF sketch maps, send links to others in the field, anything to improve situational awareness and keep people safe. And then an example of a sketch that someone might use, you'll see there's a rock line that they've highlighted, and then a close-up view of that rock line. Now, you can see this rock line in the imagery, so you'll be able to avoid that or figure out how you should navigate around that. For use case 2, it's a more general use, but when a fire is reported, the local branch office can use KYFromAbove Explorer to zoom in on an area of interest, which you're seeing to the right. And then they can immediately begin assessing terrain and hazards to relay crucial info to those in the field. Top-down aerials, as was previously used, typically had leaf on only. And thanks to KYFromAbove, we have leaf off imagery, which is very useful for these hazards. The first Division of Water example I have is from Zach Muth. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Zach is using several data sets from KYFromAbove to create maps for use in Esri's Field Maps app. Specifically, he was using the KY Topo Map series as the base map, along with the 5-foot DEMs to generate hill shades. Since he has sent this to me, he has also informed me that he's working on integrating the new imagery into this workflow. These maps will be instrumental in helping them delineate boundaries and all of their reference condition wetland sites for the season. And pictured is Trumbo Bottom, which is just below the 300 Sour Boulevard location. Next up, we have Sam Cepeda, which I believe he is also here with us today. Just a little background info in case you aren't aware. HUC stands for Hydrologic Unit Code. This is a land classification system originating from USGS, and the digit refers to the size of the watershed and the number of digits associated with its code. Sam's team uses the HUC 12 boundary layer and the 2-foot DEM to delineate HUC 12s into more detailed HUC 14s. This is useful for creating watershed plans and getting a higher resolution boundary for any given section of river or stream. With the help of ArcHydro, they can turn a simple DEM into a model for flow direction, catchments, and the drainage path for given waterways. And we have an example of the Rockhouse Fork in eastern KY. Now I'm realizing I have blasted through this. In conclusion, EEC has many different uses for the data and imagery provided from KYFromAbove, and it can also be instrumental for lots of options and aesthetic purposes. Though you've seen a few use cases today, I assure you that this imagery is used out throughout the entire cabinet. I've just collected a few use cases to show you all today. Our base map that we use as default inside of Pro and ArcGIS Online even uses some of the imagery that DGIS provided through REST services. So to wrap things up, thank you, KYFromAbove, for all that you do and all that you provide for the Commonwealth. If anyone has any questions, be more than happy to try and answer some. All right. Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jean-Luc. Very good. And we're probably going to nag you about a couple of ideas. I like that. So, and that's one thing, if you hadn't caught on to it, if you've got a good idea, share it. Let's find ways to collaborate. Speaking of things, Shrisha, would you stand up for a second? Shrisha is a very recent master's graduate from Kentucky State University and a very smart young lady, knows GIS. So if you have an opportunity, please take a moment and engage her. Okay. So there's Shrisha. All right. Okay. All right. Sure. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. Sorry, folks. Minor technical issue. All right. So you're presenting for Matt? You are, Matt. I'm sorry. It's been a little bit. I'm suddenly having a senior moment. Come on. Cooperate. Okay. Do you have notes? Or, okay, then I'm going to change it because on Zoom it's showing this instead of the other. So let me just, so you'll see what you see here is what they'll see. Okay. All right. And talk into the mic if you can.
Okay. Thank you, Will. Can everyone hear me? All right. I'm Matt Crawford. I'm a geologist with the Kentucky Geological Survey. Thank you for inviting me. Kent, thank you for the invite to showcase what your survey does with Kentucky from above. I love looking at LiDAR. For some reason, I love looking at the knobs area in LiDAR. It's fascinating. So that's what you're seeing here. I'm not sure which county that is, but very fascinating features with phase 2 LiDAR. If you don't know who we are, the Kentucky Geological Survey is a research institute at the University of Kentucky, a research center. It's our mission to support sustainable prosperity for the Commonwealth, vitality, and welfare of its people through unbiased scientific research and information. We're your home for all things geology in the state of Kentucky. So that's a lot. It's a lot of issues. So, but Kentucky from Above does a great job to help us do that. That's just a screen capture of our homepage. So how are we leveraging Kentucky from Above data resources? Well, we have a lot of geologists who do lots of different things. And generally speaking, I mean, all of the stuff that, at least in my experience, you know, we've used from KY from Above, from iterations of aerial photography, dating way back to old NAPE stuff, to LiDAR, phases of LiDAR, the shaded relief, slope maps. It's been a game changer for nerdy geologists who like to look at the Earth's surface. And it's just been, you know, catapulted us to be able to do really amazing things. So we work a lot with natural hazards. I'm a landside hazard researcher, but we have some people dabbling in flood research. We have 2 earthquake seismologists who utilize this information, karst hydrogeologists and people who deal with karst hazards, geologic mappers, geohealth, right? Believe it or not, we dabble in geohealth, and some of this data is helpful for that. Water resources, energy, critical minerals, oil and gas research, oil and gas resources, coal resources. So we do all of these things. I won't be able to touch on all of these topics with specific projects, but all of this Kentucky from above information and resources is invaluable to us. I'm a landside person, so you weren't going to escape without talking about landslides or seeing pictures of landslides. On the left is a debris flow that came down on US 119 last year. It's amazing that it didn't hurt or kill anybody. The middle there is a yard that's fallen away from someone's home in Johnson County. And then what KYTC sees a lot are, landslides affecting roadways and the roads slipping away. So I try to figure out what's going on with these, where do they happen, and what can we do about it? So one thing is I maintain a landslide inventory database for the state of Kentucky. This is known landslides. So I can find out about that wherever I can. Points, lines, polygons, old landslides, new landslides, all different types, lots of different attributes. But what's important is that I really utilize the LiDAR and aerial photography to help me locate these things and then ultimately help me do some kind of hazard assessment, right? Maybe susceptibility modeling or, making better maps to display and share this information. This is the KGS online map service where right now you can go look at these landslide locations in the context of aerial photography and amazing LiDAR. I've just zoomed in here. I think this is Prestonsburg area perhaps, but you can right now look at these landslide locations with aerial photography, the LiDAR, adjust your transparency and get a look at the hazard in your area or whatever else is important to you. Just a few little bits of eye candy here. So this is a small landslide in Carter County. I just chose it randomly, but you can see the leaf off photography, the topo map series, and then switching to bare earth, hill shade. That's not a huge landslide. It's probably 150 feet long or something, but we would never know that's there ever if it weren't for this LiDAR. That's kind of cool. This is along Buckhorn Lake in Perry County. Amazing leaf off, but you take the trees away. I'm a geologist. I really don't care about the trees. But I like the surface of the earth. So, remove the trees, and there you got this landslide that's going down into the lake there, Buckhorn Lake. The landslide is moving from right to left towards the lake. This is in Breathitt County. On the left is the oblique aerial imagery service from Kentucky from above. This is about a 750-foot long debris flow that occurred triggered during the July 2022 storms. So you can see that scar on the hill on the left and the oblique aerial imagery, and then the LiDAR image of it there on the right. Is this a laser? Does anyone know?
Well, it gives you the arrow on the screen.
That's okay. I hope you can see the landslide on the right there. It's a big scar on the hill. Landslides don't just occur on wooded slopes. You get stuff like this too. This is a hollow fill adjacent to a big surface mine. So I'm toggling back and forth here between phase 1 and phase 2 LiDAR. That's a pretty big hollow fill that's moved quite a bit in between 2000, I guess this will be 17 and 2023. So 6 years, I think. Probably something to be concerned about. I don't know what would happen to this, but it's moving. So a little bit more about inventory and landslides. I'm working on a project right now where we're looking at these historical inventory landslides that we map from, let's say, phase 1 LiDAR. But I'm also a part of a project where we're looking at an event inventory. So I'm subtracting phase 1 and phase 2 LiDAR and looking at the elevation difference to map landslides. So in this case, I'm interested in the July 2022 storm area in eastern Kentucky. So we've got 2017 LiDAR, 2012 LiDAR, and then we've got phase 2 LiDAR. So we're subtracting these data sets to try to find more landslides and sort of see how they're related to that storm and kind of put some weather context there as well. So historical inventory stuff you saw earlier, it happened. We don't know when it happened. Event inventory, we can kind of constrain the time because we know when the LiDAR was flown, right? We don't know everything, but we know that. So this is kind of a wild little slide, but the pink polygons are historic inventory landsides. I digitized those on phase 1 LiDAR. I don't know when they happened, sometime. The blue pixels and orange pixels are elevation difference. So blue is elevation loss, orange and tan is elevation gain. So you can see some of these pink polygons, they moved a little bit, right? Not all the way down slope, but they moved some. Some of the pink polygons didn't move at all. But what did move is that long debris flow in the middle, down that drainage. That was a fast moving landside deposit, right? It scoured out the channel and deposited there, the elevation gain right there in the middle, about 1,200 foot long feature. Debris flows are unique and interesting and because they're fast moving, high velocity types of landsides that can be dangerous potentially. Okay, just some more, this is some more elevation differencing, right? Here's hill shade. I'm toggling back and forth between phase 1 and phase 2 LiDAR, right? Hard to tell what's going on, but pay attention to the stream bank and pay attention to that steep slope along the road. You can just see some minor differences in the landscape, and especially particularly that drainage. But then if we drape the elevation difference on there, these things really stand out. Blue is elevation loss, orange is elevation gain. So we've got some thin like landslides along the steep slope there that have come down on the road. You got some bank collapse along the river. You got another debris flow in that channel, some landslides there on the left with elevation loss to elevation gain. This is, transportation cabinet, I think, would be interested in this. We're mapping lots of landslides along roadways like this. Here's just another little cool one, little landslide there. I'm toggling back and forth between phase 1 and phase 2 LiDAR. There's a landslide, but then it moved some, not all the way down to the bottom of the stream, but it moved some. So what's the hazard there, right? I don't know. And there's this your elevation draped on top of that. Okay, so what are we learning with this elevation differencing and toggling back and forth between the LiDAR? We're learning a lot about landsides and big storms. We're totally rethinking landside activity and your off-the-chart storms like we had in 2022. We're thinking about geomorphic trends, right? What's the aspect of all these landslides that were triggered perhaps at that storm? What was the slope angle? We're thinking about reactivated landsides versus totally new landslides. Like those landslides that just moved a little bit. Like what do we think about those versus the ones that were totally triggered new in the storm, let's say. We're mapping more debris flows. So this figure is your observed precipitation. Sorry, I don't have the legend on there, but this is observed precipitation from July 22, right? In that bullseye area, we had up to 14 inches of rain in July 2022 over the course of about 3 days. The yellow dots are landsides that our team mapped right after the storm in July 2022. Over 1,000 landslides. We went out, just drove around roads and cataloged landslides after that event. All right, there are about a little over 1,000 of those. The red polygons there is just covering part of the storm area. Those are landslides we've mapped from this differencing project. We've got about close to 5,000 landslides from that. Again, this is 2017 to 2023, but we're pretty confident that those happened in that storm event. That storm event was so crazy. So if you extrapolate the change detection to that blue polygon there, which is my study area, we're not done mapping there. It's going to be about over 6,000 landslides. If you extrapolate to the entire storm area, we're probably going to map about 20,000 landslides that we are pretty confidently attaching to that storm event. The LiDAR helps drive some susceptibility mapping we're doing. We have landside susceptibility published for 5 counties there in the Big Sandy ad, and we're about to publish those counties there you see that are Kentucky River ad. You can view these in our map service right now. If you want to talk more about this, I'm happy to do so. More landside stuff. I promise I'll get to other stuff. We have a a colleague who's doing some automatic segmentation. So like using AI to map landslides. So they're taking the LiDAR DEM and some gradient maps to automatically detect landslides in surface. I don't understand all the deep learning black box stuff, but you do the LiDAR DEM, some gradients and landslide inventory to teach the model, and it'll automatically digitize the landslide. So there's a manual digitation on the left, automatic segmentation on the right. Maybe we can map the whole state in an afternoon with deep learning automatic landslide segmentation. Critical minerals. We have an energy team at KGS who's looking at critical minerals. So they leverage the aerial photography, they leverage the LiDAR. Here's a tailings pond in Livingston County that you can see on the 6-inch imagery. In the middle there's the hillshade layer showing the dam features of the ponds, and so they can digitize those and help for critical minerals assessment out in this part of Western Kentucky. More critical minerals, like here, combining maps is really cool to do, like old maps with the LiDAR, some of that we saw this morning. Here's some USGS historical mapping on the left, drape that with hillshade, LiDAR hillshade, and we can start to digitize these things that you probably were never going to be able to do before. Line features in the fluorspar district, mine shafts, open cut areas, right? Things that may be really valuable to critical minerals research and reopening areas that maybe we thought weren't going to be beneficial to critical minerals, but are now. Sinkhole mapping. LiDAR has been amazing for sinkhole mapping. We are mapping this like orders of magnitude more sinkholes than we were looking at old topographic maps, right? So the KGS water team, right, looks at hillshades, aerial imagery, 2 phases of the LiDAR and DMs, even the point clouds to do some differencing to map sinkholes. They're also doing some kind of pond analysis, so differentiating the sinkholes from ponds, and that's useful. If you can look at these sinkholes on our map service, and if you drape the LiDAR derived sinkholes on top of the kind of the historic or older sinkhole data set, if you ever looked at that, it's just wild how many more sinkholes there are. Forest cover and root strength. I'm glad I put this in here with some of the folks who talked earlier. So your old National Land Cover Database data set's kind of old, right? It's not that great. It's not very updated. We had a few folks at the survey who created a new tree layer basically from the LiDAR point cloud. So they did just some vegetation differencing with the point cloud and came up with a tree layer, and did some canopy correction and came up with this LiDAR derived forest layer that you see in the middle, and you can check it with aerial photography, and that's nice. And then we had someone, Meredith Swallam, who's one of our geologic mappers. She made a root strength index map from that updated no tree, forest layer. So this is a root strength map based, derived from LiDAR, right? In a new tree layer from the LiDAR. So I think root strength maps are interesting. They're interesting for slope stability, but probably lots of other forest applications as well. Flooding. We have a team that's dabbling in some flooding research. So they look at the slope, forest class data, DEMs, combine that into some flood modeling software to look at flooding and high water marks. So this is kind of a newly burgeoning area of research at the survey. Locating orphan oil and gas wells. This is a big project of ours. Due to changes in survey quality and tools used during Kentucky's very long history of oil and gas work and development, locating these things can be very challenging. So we have received quite a bit of money to locate orphan wells, because there's some hazards associated with orphaned oil and gas wells. So the aerial photography has been amazing. The oblique aerial service, all the phases of aerial imagery has been critical in saving us tons of time to locate oil and gas wells. I went pretty fast as well, but this is not just me. We have a talented group of geologists and staff at the KGS who are doing awesome work, and I guarantee they all leverage KY from above data, and we love looking at LiDAR and aerial photography. That's our thing. So thanks to all the KGS people who contributed to this. My research partner at BGC Engineering, who's doing the landslide differencing stuff with me. I work on some FEMA grants too, so thanks to people at UK Martin School. UK Department of Earth and Environmental Sciences is very supportive, and I talked to a lot of people in Kentucky about landslides and susceptibility mapping, so thanks to them as well. Happy to take questions.
Could you say just a little bit more about what factors go into the landslide susceptibility modeling and also that pre-root strength?
Yes, that's a great question. I'm just going to go back here. This is a statistical geomorphic model of landslide susceptibility. So what goes in is slope, aspect, curvature, plan curvature, roughness. So all geomorphic derivatives or in derivatives of slope. We make all those rasters, we shove them into kind of a dual step machine learning, algorithm, and it comes up with well, we get all those attributes from existing landslides. We use the inventory to get all those values, those geomorphic values, and then the model spits out a probability that a landslide exists or will exist on a slope. So it's a very static geomorphic based model. But yeah, anything we can derive from the elevation is what we put in.
So it sounds like it doesn't take into account soils or any overburden.
It does not take into account soils or geology for that matter, which is kind of strange, I know. But that's harder to put in this kind of model. The sort of coarseness of the soil map data, it's just hard to, the resolution's not that great. And we're experimenting with that, shoving in soils to see what it does. Because I know soils matter, right? I know soils matter to slope stability, but in this kind of model, it's just hard to, put that in there. Good. I'm sorry, I can't speak too much to the root strength. But it is a kind of an empirical published index that was used to calculate a root strength index number. Mm-hmm.
We have one question from the chat. It says, phase 1 and phase 2 have different resolutions. How did you resolve this problem to get elevation differences to study the landslides?
Really good question. My research partner deals more with sort of the correction, any correction that needs to happen with phase 1, phase 2. And yeah, like you saw the toggling back and forth, there's a big difference in kind of clarity and sharpness of the hillshades. But for the differencing straight up, like just subtracting elevation from elevation, it's not that big of a hindrance. I don't know, Kent, maybe you could speak to that more. I mean, there's some things to take into consideration with phase 1, phase 2, but it doesn't hinder it that much.
I have a couple questions. First of all, is the LiDAR derived canopy cover and the root strength index, are they available? Are they statewide and are they available as services?
They're not, to my knowledge, and we could look into doing that. I'd have to talk to the PI who worked on that project, but yeah, we could look into that.
I'd love to have that.
Yeah.
And then
good question.
Secondly, worked in natural resources, I always noticed a big correlation between like milder winters and having landslides. Does anything in your data kind of correlate with that? Have you all looked at that at all?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, landslides tend to happen in this is changing with the changing climate and more moisture in the atmosphere and wetter soils. But generally speaking, like they tend to happen in the late winter, spring. before leaf out, right? There's more rainfall. That's generally when we see a lot of landslides, but you know, that debris flow you saw in Bell County, that happened in August last year in a very unimpressive amount of rainfall. So we're continuing being surprised with landslide occurrence and when they happen and clustering of landslides and particular storm events. That's what we're learning a lot about right now. So yeah, there's general trends, right, with seasonal activity and landslides, but we're also constantly being surprised.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on it briefly here. I guess where do you see the sort of sharing of this information going? How far out do you all see going?
All this data you're seeing here is or will be publicly available. Yeah, even the differencing stuff, those difference maps, they were just for our particular study area, but those are going to be publicly available. And all the landslides we mapped, those will be as well. Just not done with the project yet. Thanks.
So one thing, Matt, I want to get that data to our design engineers, because in the high susceptibility areas, I want us to rethink how we're looking at slope. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Last but certainly not least, what we've all been waiting for. Want me to build it up a little bit more? No, that's enough. Just so? Okay. All right. Here's Lucas.
All right, guys. So sure. Yeah, then are you seeing my screen? Is that the problem?
If you need a data line, it shows that way for the
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do it that way.
Okay.
All right, sorry for the people on Zoom. So, hey guys, my name is Lucas Graham. I'm here to talk about the new KYFromAbove Explorer. My first couple slides, I have a few images. People can call out if you know where they are. Start off with an easy one. Anyone know this one? Cumberland Falls, thank you. And the next one is pretty easy too, mostly because the giant Buc-ee's logo on the roof. So if you didn't know, they have a giant logo on their roof. So here's our agenda for today. We're gonna, talk about just quickly what is an oblique. We're gonna talk about the reason for the change from the old viewer to the new viewer. And then we're gonna talk fully about the viewer itself, some functionality. I have some videos to show of the functionality, and then we're gonna talk about our further integrations with Pro. So yeah, let's get to it. So as you've seen from the last couple of photos, our KYFromAbove Explorer is our viewer for our statewide 3-inch oblique imagery. We collected these images from the fall of 2022 to the spring of 2024. The new Explorer was built and developed using the Esri Experience Builder as a base. It was developed by MV5, and all of our imagery is stored on AWS thanks to our Amazon Open Data partnership. Does anyone know where this is? This is a pretty hard one. Kentucky Kingdom, I heard it out there. Yeah, it's one of the water slides at Kentucky Kingdom. So we'll just briefly go over what an oblique is. So in traditional aerial photo for photography, your straight down shot, that's your nadir shot. And then every shot, our obliques are actually shot at angles. So during our statewide collection, not only did we collect that downward nadir shot, we collected 4 oblique images for every nadir shot. So as you can imagine, that is a lot of photos collected. And I have a photo here from GIM International that kind of shows it a little bit better. With that traditional nadir shot straight down, you only get that top down view. You're only going to see roofs, rooftops, things like that. With that oblique view, you can really get a side profile of what you're looking at. And one more note, that point in which the photos were taken is known as the exposure point. So when I talk about the exposure point and the viewer, this is what I'm referring to. It's the exact location on where those photos were taken. So let's get into a little bit of the reasons for change. We talked to Sandboard and they were gonna keep raising the cost of the viewer for them to host it year after year. And since we didn't own the viewer, if we didn't pay, they take it out. So the viewer would have been no more. With this new viewer, everything is license free. So we own not only the photos, but we also have capabilities of deploying the viewer anytime we want. It has increased in functionality, and we have increased in functionality with our integrations with things like ArcGIS Pro. So without further ado, let's talk about the new oblique viewer. So I'm sure a lot of you are used to the Esri platform kind of web map dashboard layout. We have our typical things. We have our map navigations. We have our layer controls. A couple things I want to point out here is we have our measurement tools still. All the measurement tools are still here. The compass is still here. It looks a little different. Those blue dots on there are actually all the exposure points that I was referring to. So not only can you just switch directions, you can actually click on those exposure points and change the exact oblique that you're looking at from those exposure points. And we'll see that a little bit more in action in a second. And then also we still have our image gallery at the bottom. So if you want to look at those across a wider spectrum like you could on the side panel, the old oblique viewer, that's still there as well. And they have the little north and south, east, west. So, let's see it in action. So here we are at the KYTC building. That reddish rectangle on the left there is actually the exact outline of the oblique that you're looking at. So as you zoom in and out too, that'll change the actual rectangle. It is exactly what you're looking at on that left panel. You'll see me open the compass here, open it up, switch around a few times. You can either click on those slivers or you can click on the exact exposure points that you were looking at. And then we'll kind of zoom in here a little lower, and then we'll actually turn on our exposure points so we can see them on our left side. So if it helps you visualize where those exposure points are, you can turn them on your map and still see them on the left-hand side there. All right, and let's say I want to see maybe some points of interest that might be in my viewing area here. So I'm going to turn on a few layers and turn off my exposure points. So let's do hospitals, city halls, libraries. And I can see that some of these fall within my reddish rectangle here. So I'm going to start looking for them on my oblique image. And we'll just start with maybe this school that's in the bottom left of the rectangle, or bottom right, I guess, for you guys. And we'll zoom in over here. And let's say I'm not even sure that is the school that I actually am looking at. So I'm just going to turn on my overlay for my school points on my oblique. So with the new viewer, you can actually turn on your point features, click on those points, and you can actually open your table right there. So I can see that this is the 2nd Street School in Frankfurt. So let's back out a little bit and let's turn off our points of interest and let's go look for some state parks instead. So as I zoom out, I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is maybe a little busy of a base map for me to look at to see my boundaries for my state parks. So let's make it a little wider here by dragging that over, and let's change the base map out. Since this isn't an Esri platform or an Esri experience builder kind of app, we have access to all of our base maps that are on our organization. So I'm just going to quickly switch over to our one of my favorites, Start Gray Canvas, for pointing things out. So we have our polygons here, and I can see my parks pretty easily now. I'm going to zoom in on Lake Cumberland here and just click somewhere in the lake to get an oblique. So let's slide this all the way back. And let's say I'm looking at this oblique and I think to myself, is this even in the park? So why don't I just turn my polygon feature on in my oblique to see what is and isn't in the park. So I can see that this whole landmass and the docks are within the oblique and are in the park on my oblique. All right, let's just jump to another location. So with the search tools that we have implemented, we can actually use all of our geocoding services that we have in our AGOL platform, but I'm just gonna leave it on all for now, and I'm gonna jump over to the Louisville Zoo. If you came to my last presentation at camp, you know I like looking at the animals at the zoo, so we're gonna look for some animals. Let's say I just wanna keep my dark canvas on the left, but I still wanna look at that nadir shot on my right, or sorry, vice versa, I'm looking at it the other way. So I'm gonna switch over to just the nadir shot on the other side there. So not only can you look at the obliques over there, you can actually look at all of the individual nadir shots that we have in our catalog as well. So I'm going to zoom in and look at the zoo here. I'm going to look for the rhinoceros enclosure, see if I can pick it out. I think that's the giraffe enclosure there. I think that one is the rhinoceros enclosure. So we're gonna use that as our point of interest, and then we're gonna switch our base map back to our Commonwealth light gray, and we are gonna go back to our oblique views to look for some animals at the zoo. So I'll put my point of interest right here in the middle of what I think is the rhinoceros enclosure. Filter back to my obliques. Didn't really see much there, but I'm gonna scroll down. Okay, well, I see a giraffe, so that's kind of cool, but I still want to see those rhinos. So I'm gonna open up the image gallery and maybe pick a different image out from that and see if I can find one of those rhinoceroses. Rhinoceros. There we go, and we got one. And I know what you guys are thinking as well, like, well, how big is he? Well, a sleeping rhino from tip to tail is about 11.2 feet. And I really wanted to point this out. All these measurement tools now have a confidence interval associated with them. So this is 11.2 feet plus or minus 4.6. So all of our measurement tools now have a confidence interval with them. And I know you might have another question after this. Well, how tall was the giraffe? He's about 15.6 feet tall. So let's just say I tire of nature. Let's go look at the Louisville skyline as if we were going up the Ohio. With a new feature in the viewer, you can actually lock in your angle of what you're looking at. So I'm going to lock in my angle because I know I just want to be looking at the skyline to see this beautiful highway that we have on our coast of the Ohio. And after you lock it in, anytime you click, you will automatically get that same angle that you had before. So I don't have to worry about when I click on the next image of it swiveling around on me or changing in any sort of direction. So I'm just going to pan down and click down the Ohio here, kind of stopping at a few points of interest. We have the Louisville Bat Stadium here. And then I think the next, a little bit farther down, we have the Louisville City Stadium or the Racing Louisville. I think it's the men's and women's. They have different names for the teams. They have some funky lights or something on their stadium as well. Keep that grass green. All right, sharing options. Ken alluded to this a little bit before. You can copy out the URL directly. You can do a QR code. So built right into the viewer, there's a QR code. You can copy it out. You can get a little JPEG of that. You can use it to copy out an email template. It comes with a little short link, or you can just generate the short link yourself. And as we said before, these URLs are way more advanced than the old viewer. It'll take you to the exact lat long. It'll take you to the exact zoom level and the exact oblique image that person was looking at when they sent you that URL string. So it's pretty amazing, actually. And I know what you're thinking QR codes, does it mean I can view it on mobile? We don't recommend looking at it on mobile. A lot of the functionality is kind of gone, especially when you're looking at it on a mobile device. If you just want to pull up the oblique image that someone sends you, or have them pull it up, you can definitely look at it on your screen. But a lot of the functionality for the zooming in and out, that kind of stuff, doesn't quite work on a phone. We're still testing for things on like tablets and things like that. So use at your own risk. We're not currently supporting any kind of mobile. And I know I covered a lot. There is a built-in integrated help page into the viewer. So at the very bottom there, you'll see that little help button. You click that. It's an little document there. If you need even more help, there's a button right there at the top that says full help documentation. That takes you to our full website with a full extensive help page. And if you need even more help than that, you can feel free to reach out to me or anyone on the team about it. And we talked about this a little bit before as well. All previous integrations with our previous viewer will still currently work. So that means the pop-ups in your layers, if you have the add-in for Arc Pro or Arc Map, that should still redirect into the new viewer as well. We are working on new integration documents for this. And as Ken alluded to before as well, not all of these integrations will work in future releases for the viewer. So we ask that you guys always move to the most current version of the integration whenever possible. So, well, what's the catch? You can no longer pan around like you could in the old viewer. The old viewer, you could be on that oblique, you could pan and it'll take you to the next. You can no longer do that, unfortunately. But I think that loss in functionality isn't too great now that you can lock in the camera angle and you can just click down. It's much simpler. And in my opinion, when I was panning around on the old viewer, sometimes it would jump me to a location and I've just lost my complete area of focus anyway. So this is a much controlled way of moving around. There is no print functionality in the new viewer. In the old one, you could print a PDF out and have the URL at the bottom. The loss of functionality there isn't too bad because the URL strings are so much more versatile that you can just copy out your URL string, give it to somebody else, it'll take them there, and it's a more interactive way of essentially printing the same document. And there's no draw function. We have no draw function on our obliques anymore. I know that might hurt some people, but yeah, there's just no draw function. Now let's talk about the integration with Pro. Since everything is in an oriented imagery catalog, we can directly integrate into Pro. You will have to download the oriented imagery classic add-in for ArcGIS Pro. We are currently testing on which versions of Windows and Pro everything mashes and works together well. So if you do install this and you have any trouble, please reach out to us. Tell us your version of Pro, your version of Windows. We're going to try to put an extensive list together on where and when it works. But we're still ongoing on testing on this. But I will show you how easy it is to access it. You'll see me pull up a layer file here. That's just our OIC. Drag that in, and I'll get that little data tab on the far end there. If I click on that, there's a new button there, select IO location. So we're going to just zoom in where this whole presentation started, right here at the transportation cabinet. Click that select IO button and click near one of our exposure points. And there we go. We have our oblique image right here of the transportation building. And that viewer in Pro also has a few of the same functionality. It has the preserve angle buttons. It has the measurement tools, all that kind of things. You'll see me click through them here in a second. All right. Does anyone have any questions? And does anyone know where this one is? This is the hardest one that I have. Owensboro. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people probably went to the KAMP conference. That's it's a nice one there. Yeah. So does anyone have any questions for me or the team?
So just having built a viewer, not a oblique viewer, but a viewer in the past, are y'all planning on at some point having the ability to draw on the obliques? Because I would expect that people are gonna keep asking.
We're always going to be increasing functionality when we can, and we're working with newer versions of the viewer. Hopefully that'll be a functionality in the future. Okay. I won't promise anything, but
Sure. And again,
yeah.
fair. Okay. Sure. Excellent work. I mean, this is very exciting. Great improvement.
Oh, and just so you guys know, if you guys are curious, the oriented imagery catalog layer files are already out on Box. So if you want to play with that in Pro, that's already available. The actual viewer switchover is forthcoming. So have fun with that and let me know how it goes. All right. Thanks.
Excellent job. Sure. Okay. So you got anything else you want to go over? Okay. Yeah. So first of all, Kent did a great job thanking his team and I failed. So I want to ask a favor. Everybody on my team, could y'all stand up for a second? When I stand up and say something, and if it almost sounds intelligent, it's because of them. So we've also got a couple of other team members that are on vacation, so they're not here. But I want to thank them. Okay, now the second phase. Former team members, stand up. Yeah, come on, Mandrew, Scott. Yep, Watson. Okay. So we are a community. Okay. We don't do this by ourselves. You may see our faces, but it is on behalf of all the people that work in transportation and y'all all across the state. We have to work together. And so we finished on time or maybe a little bit early, but take the opportunity to have a conversation with each other. Don't rush out the door right this second. Take the moment to network. Shrisha's here too. If you know of an opportunity, please give her a chance. Okay. We have young talent coming in. We've got to grow them. We've got to give them opportunities. But again, if you have a good idea of what Matt was showing, I thought was phenomenal. I need to pester him on some things that we need to make sure are getting into the cabinet. So talk to each other. Okay. And again, thank you. Thank all the presenters for coming. There is a request that presenters come up on stage so that, yeah, y'all can sit down. Sorry. Y'all have to tell me, come on. So all the presenters, if you don't mind coming up, we're going to do a photo shoot. No bathing suit pictures, but we're going to do a photo shoot. Just take a quick picture for KAMP. So if y'all will come up. And again, y'all keep talking to each other. All right. Yes. You presented and you provided lunch. Again, thank you, JMT. All right. Yeah. Forward. Yeah. All right. Thank y'all. So thank you again. Enjoy. You corralled everybody.
Yeah. That's usually not too hard. You know, it's usually not too hard. Most people it is. Yeah. I've got to skip. I got to get that road because I now know I do have senior honors at 6, and I've been trying to get yard mode and now. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I've got. Yeah, well, I'd like to stay at play. I got hit.